Boom. And we are live with another episode of the Brownwater Banter podcast. My name is Jared Seymour.
My name is Joey Cates.
That's right. We got a great show for you today, man. We got Robby Ellis, Dr. Robby Ellis in the house today. Yes, man. From NeoLife, man. He's going to be talking about all things ergonomics, keeping our posture up, man, keeping straight, keeping our core tight.
He's already put us in line.
Yeah, he's already told me to sit up, man. So, no, it's going to be a great show. But before we jump into to all those things here, we're going to talk about the people that keep the show on the road, I guess, or running. There we go. That's what I meant to say. There we go. Boom. You've heard us talk about him before. Dr. Robby Williams, another Dr. Robby. Dr. Robby Williams over at Southern Magnolia Smiles, man. If you're looking, that's right. If you're looking for a great local dentist, he's your guy. Right over on Washington Avenue in Ocean Springs. Look them up on Facebook and Instagram at Southern Magnolia Smiles, man. They're active on the socials. If you want to check them out on the traditional website, you got www.southernmagnoliasmiles.com. And when you're ready to make that appointment and go see him and get your grill cleaned and
or get a grill.
Fresh. Or get a grill, yeah, looking fresh. Just give him a call at 228-215-1202, man. Moving right along, Jesse Hill and his team at Hilltree Marketing. If you need a website for any reason, if you need IT work, anything digital, really, photography, videography, you need a commercial made, you need photos done for any reason, right? Hit up Hilltree.
For me, by the way.
Did he? I didn't know you worked with him.
No, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
He was with us for 2-3 years.
Sweet. Okay, so see, we're not lying, folks. We're not making this up. He's done a ton of websites for local businesses around here, a lot of which you will be familiar with. So go over to hilltreemarketing.com. Give him a look, see what he can do. Check out brownwaterbanter.com, which is our website.
Award-winning
website. Jesse Hill did that for us, and we couldn't be more satisfied with the product. So if you have any type of needs like that, aerial drone cinematography, man, you want him to come and film something for you with this drone. It could be for any reason. It doesn't matter. Check them out, hilltreemarketing.com. They're local as well, too. So always shop local when you can. Moving along, who we got next, Joey? Sea to Swamp. Rocky, our good buddy Rocky Brooks, man. He's running the shop over there on Gaucher Van Cleve Road. If you're looking for apparel, if you're looking for fishing tackle, if you need a rod, if you need a reel, people watching on the live stream and the replay, you can see right here, he's got a shop full of stuff, man. You don't have to wait for it to be shipped to you 2, 3, 4, 5 days, man. Walk in, take a look at it, hold it in your hand, get what you want, walk out, and know that Rocky's got your back, man. If anything goes wrong, he can help you fix it. So what we got here, all kind of apparel,
extra tufts, all kinds of stuff.
That's right, man. Matrix shadow, like we mentioned before. And so boots, extra tough. They're legit, man. If you're out and about,
and they're hard to find these days, man.
They're just like
really hard, especially the women's.
Just like everything else, it's hard to find. So go check Rocky Brooks out, man. Over and you can look him on Facebook. Sea to Swamp. Very easy to find over on, like I said, Gaucher Van Cleve Road. Go check him out Monday through Friday. I'm sure he's probably even open on Saturday, if I had to guess. Saturday, Sunday.
Go tell him with him.
Yeah, hit him up on the Facebook. It's got all the info there. We also got the South Mississippi Boat Show. Joey, what's the dates on that? So
that's Mr. Alan Batallo. We did it last year. It's on Point Cadet. They're going to have a kids fishing rodeo this year. We did a lot of drone footage for him last year. It's going to be next Friday, 29th, 30th, 31st. The last 3 days, and it's going to be a cool thing. Come hang out with us. It's going to be a lot of vendors. Going to be a lot of stuff going on. We'll be out there slinging brownwater merch, so it'll be a good time. So come hang out with us. South Mississippi Boat Show. That's the 29th, 30th, and 31st.
The first. There's no. I just looked.
Yeah, no first?
I just looked. Yep.
So 29th,
would not have known that.
First,
and the first. That's not this weekend, but next. But if you're listening on the replay, go by the dates. Don't go by the next weekend talk. So I think that was it. We got everybody.
Everybody, yep.
All right. So we got a little brown water flowing on the table here this evening, and we're going to start off with Robby. Man, you got a lot going on here in the community. You've been here for your whole life, just like us, right? Unfortunately, I think you graduated from D'Iberville High School. Is that correct? Yeah, it's bad. But it happens. Not everybody can go to St. Martin.
He definitely had a better football record than all of us combined.
There is no doubt about that. But when you talk shit, facts don't matter. So
right. Hey, where are you at now, though?
Yeah, I'm a warrior now, baby.
Oh, he's a trader. He's a what is a sellsword? Yeah,
nah, it is what it is. I'm a warrior.
It is what it is.
I claim it.
So where do we start, dude? We've known you for a long time. Ran into you last, I think, at the was it Peter Anderson, and talked about coming on the show. Mm-hmm. I say we start with, we're going to talk about NeoLife, obviously. So let's start with how did you choose that path, physical therapy? Why go that route, and how'd you get there?
It really started. Well, I got an undergrad in pre-med, so it was basically biology with like a chemistry minor. And Honestly, it was really more superficial in the fact that I knew I had to have a clear goal in terms of being young and, just being driven, but also not wanting to funnel myself. Uh, I thought about being like, I wanted to be an orthodontist,
Yeah.
when I was
Yeah.
real young, because I just thought it was cool. Like in there, you had little games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Looking at it from my son's perspective now, who's 7, it's like, that's kind of,
Yeah, it's a happy environment. Yeah.
yeah.
It's like not super sick
and
people
then
around all the
clearly
time.
he's doing well.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that was something I was shot for. I admired him, Dr. Michael Williams, in Gulfport. A lot of people use him. And so really that was kind of it for me. I was just like, okay, got my direction as a kid, and just focused on football and other things. And I knew that was a lofty goal, but I knew it also gave me a lot of flexibility in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of figured that was the direction that I would be more gifted in, in terms of just being an empathetic kind of person that really cares a lot, and wear my heart on my sleeve.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the path getting into to that point. And then once I got out of football in college, I was really single focused on just being an athlete. So narrow-minded. I didn't really know anything about myself. And it was, as an athlete, you really get funneled into what you're doing, and it's self-serving in a lot of ways. And then also you're a drone for a system,
Right.
and you're getting controlled to the fullest.
Right.
And so you don't have to think a lot, you're everything.
Eat at this time, sleep at this
Yeah.
time, be here at this time. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of life skills that you also don't get, but you're a grown man and you look like a grown man, and but you really don't know jack, and so it takes a little bit of humility going through those stages in life, and a bit of an identity crisis, I think, too, when football ended for me.
I think major like NFL athletes go through that, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, you
Like
you
look at Tom Brady.
Where'd you play at?
At Nickel State, and then left there after 4 football seasons. My eligibility was up.
Yeah.
And I went to Southern for my last year to finish my degree in my undergrad.
So you went from a football player straight to a full-time student.
And full-time party college.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby. To the top.
Yeah. And trust me, I felt like I was missing out over there in Thibodeau. And all my friends being back home, it was basically like my whole high school senior class transplanted to Southern Miss. And it was a peak year. I'm going to tell you, we made the best of it.
Yeah.
You got to do that, I guess, sometimes, right? I mean,
so it was like a crash course in that lifestyle
right.
that I missed out on, I guess, or felt like I missed out on. And so that all kind of came to a head. And so I really just, I just got to that point where I just was like, okay, I got to get serious. I'm not going to be in a dentist office, like I can't live that life, and then you hear all these things about like, it takes a special person, let's put it that way.
Right.
And if you have that mindset and that problem solving ability and those tactile skills and all that technical stuff, and that's the way your brain works, and then I think that's great. But for me, I just realized it wasn't,
Yeah.
And I tried to force that. I even spent time doing observation in dental offices, and I worked for Dr. Williams, eventually doing molds in his lab, stuff like that. So I've always just been a creature of experience. Like I hear what you're saying, but I need to know for myself.
Right. Hands on.
Yeah. And so then I graduated, moved home, and eFitness had just opened. And so I had the easy route of kind of working for my dad, making, $12 an hour, like hauling shingles on the roof. And, I had my undergrad. And I knew professional school was the next step. And so I just kind of settled in, did that. And then eventually when eFitness opened, I was like, I feel like that'd be a good experience,
Right.
And so I went in there as pretty much like a support staff, a person that greets people and shows them around, a fitness technician, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like $8 an hour job, and but I got to kind of just see the ins and outs of really a fitness business, and one that eventually ended up failing. And so sometimes that's the best place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess you were kind of like a trainer, right? I mean, I guess.
Well, eventually, so I was around working out and fitness, and I was in football and like high level performance training with some really, high level people.
Yeah.
And so I would go. I'm a fitness technician giving people tours. And eventually
you got a title.
Eventually I'm like, okay, no, I didn't have any credentials, right?
Fitness technician. Yeah.
Right. But no credentials, right? I didn't even have a personal training certification. And eventually I'm like, I could be like training these people. And so I went and talked to the guy, Eddie, and I was like, hey man, you mind if I'm like, if they want to, could I pick them up as clients? And, I know what I'm doing. And, I played football, whatever.
Right.
He was like, yeah, man, just go get like a online personal. So I literally went home overnight, did like a certification, right? Some like $40 thing, and got like a certificate that said it, and I handed it to him, and I was like, we good? He's like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, man, put it on the wall.
Right. Frame it and you're good to go.
Right. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I had 4 clients.
Really?
That's how I operate. It's always been like a
hustle.
Yeah. And I always knew 2 people aren't going to give it to me,
Yeah.
And that's kind of the fortunate part of the way I was brought up. Under the circumstances I was brought up, they weren't traditional in any way, but it was great because it molds you, and I never felt like I was missing out.
Yeah, you get what you get. You get what you work for.
What do you say? Not traditional? Can we go into that?
Oh yeah. So I didn't meet my father until I was 4, 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really sure the whole circumstances to it, but my parents never married. It was pretty much a girlfriend boyfriend thing.
Yeah. That happens, right? We're adults now. We know. You definitely can understand that, right?
Sure. And so my mom didn't feel like she had the support she needed, so she actually moved to down to Florida, down in Cocoa Beach, Brevard County. And so that's where I was born, because my grandfather lived down there, and my Aunt Monica lived with him, and she still lives down in Tampa with my cousin Lauren, and that's her daughter, and Alex. I gotta say their names just because
you gotta give them a shout out. Yeah.
And they're my people. Like,
right.
It's so cool because my family's so unique.
Tight,
yeah. But anyhow, so my grandmother, who's like crazy awesome person,
right?
Like anybody that's ever met him, her and my grandfather, cream of the crop,
right?
Saints, I should.
Most grandmas are.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so that's kind of who molded me and brought me up, and so eventually, my grandma reached out and said, "Bring him home."
Yeah.
And so,
bring that baby home.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so I moved back home. Started off. My dad met me, instantly fell in love. Took custody of me.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a. I didn't even know. I didn't know that, and I've known you for a long time. I didn't know that.
Not a lot of people do.
Yeah, that's.
Well, now everybody does. Now you.
Well, yeah.
Open up
thank
like
you
that's hard.
Thank you for sharing that. But I've seen like memes or quotes, whatever they are online, of like, don't ever treat anybody. You try to treat everybody good because you don't know their backstory. You don't know what they're dealing with. You may think they're a successful football player, and they may have shit in their head that they're trying to work through for whatever reason. You don't know about it. So that just goes to show you. Right. But no, being at eFitness, man, people that don't either remember, weren't old enough, in the audience, if y'all wasn't old enough to know
that
about
place
it,
was state of the art.
Dude, it was amazing. It really was. And I hated that it was, and I hated it eventually failed. But while it was open, it was a legit place, and they did have a physical therapy department, right? It
was outsourced? Yeah, it was
correct. Correct. That was inside of there, right? But
they had everything in there. They had weight rooms, track,
multiple swimming pools. Right. They had actual bar. They had food, like a food bar,
smoothie bar,
and then actual like outdoor. You could have had like parties or whatever. But is that where the story's going? Is that where you got the PT? Okay, all right. Let's get back there. Yeah,
right. So I picked up 4 clients my first day. Anyhow, before you knew it, I probably had 12 clients there, and I would, it would have me scheduled to where I could actually work like maybe 1 in the afternoon until like 10 o'clock at night at the gym.
Yeah.
And just go boom, boom, boom.
Just
schedule them out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would go, so I'd wake up 7, be on the job site. My dad at 7:30. I would leave there.
Oh, you were still doing roofing at the time?
Yeah.
Oh God.
So this was every day.
Yeah.
For a year I did this.
Yeah.
And then I knew it was temporary though. So
Right.
it's like I was going a little extra hard.
Right.
And then would go to volunteer coach. This was back in 2008 whenever we went to the state championship for D'Iberville. We had Kevin Norwood and
Studs.
Jacoby Bell,
Yeah.
Mark Seymour. You know, we had just a squad of great talent and athletes. And so I was fortunate enough to get to volunteer that year. And so I was there from, you know, I would get there from lunchtime until normally 3-ish, 2:30 if I had an earlier client or something. But that's why I really tried to push my personal training schedule back after 3 if I could. And then I would just stay later.
To go to practice.
Yeah, to practice. And yeah, that was the life. And that was awesome time. Really changed me in a way, you know, because it was, you learn what you're capable of. And also you kind of see when you're getting to experience that from the next level, and my heart's always been in D'Iberville. Like they made me, you know, hardened me in a lot of ways. And so that was kind of the, you know, the mission. But getting back to fitness, they were a great idea, but it was a poor business model.
Right.
Yep.
And when you have too many cooks in the kitchen,
correct,
you're going to have issues. And
well, it's a bunch of doctors, right? A bunch of
Right.
doctors with a lot of money threw at it.
Correct.
And I don't know if anybody who actually took the, hey, we got to do this instead of keep throwing money at this
Sure.
thing.
Correct.
So,
And you can't have leadership that has, let's say, half the risk or a percentage of the risk,
right,
that's acting as a leader that
Correct.
has 100% of
Right.
ownership or whatever.
yeah.
And that was kind of that was part of the, you know, the issues there.
I remember seeing, like I mentioned, the outside pool bar in all those
Right.
areas. And when it first opened, like I was there early, like, you know, a member early, thinking, oh man, there are going to be so many parties at this outside pool. There's going to be so many training classes. There are going to be so many this, that, and the other thing. And it actually ended up being just a regular gym, just way bigger.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Problem two,
correct,
is what you're getting to. It's location. They're one exit too far, or they're one. You need to be within like max one turn off the interstate.
right,
You know.
right.
And I know it doesn't sound like much, but you
No.
think about it, to get into their entrance, you have to get off the interstate.
Yep.
You have to go straight. You take a right, and then you take a left.
Yep.
But it's
not visible from the interstate
no,
whatsoever.
it's not visible, and that was a problem. And yeah, it's really sad because that was a cool little.
That was also
thing.
pre real social media too.
Right.
So that was another problem.
Yeah.
I
Was
mean, in today's
that-
world, you could have juiced
Yeah.
it on social
Oh, yeah.
media,
It was ahead of its time.
right? And,
Was
and
that that before Biloxi put in? I can't remember. Was Biloxi High School there before?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was around the same time as
It was close. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was there.
But so that's where you make your introduction
So,
into
yeah,
physical therapy
so I was
while you're
like,
training.
well, no, I'm like personal training. I'm like, so work, and then I started working with kids. I started doing kids classes and was approached by moms of kids that were in sports that just knew me and knew my heart, my passion, and believe it or not, Donnie Parker, the amazing architect in Woolmarket, is responsible for my beginning, really. Okay, so he approached me, and he had his two sons that were 12 and 13 at the time, Jake Parker and Grant Parker, and they were just little couch potatoes at the time, non-motivated PlayStation kids, you know.
Right.
Yep.
And but they had a ton of heart, but their bodies weren't there, you know. They're prepubescent pretty much, you know?
Right.
And so I got to work with them in those years and just watch these kids in a year and a half just turn into monsters.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I was like, this is great. You know what I'm saying? And getting to just see those transformations and with the emotional struggles you go through. And that's what I realized I was good at.
Yeah.
is-
Well, working with kids, because I work with them every day, especially middle school kids, because one day it's like working with a rattlesnake. One day they could be the best kids there are on the face of the earth, and the next day they walk in, they want to bite your head off.
Well, I'm sure it's like you're talking about what age group?
14, 13,
Yeah.
12, 13,
You know how much
14.
testosterone's flowing through their
Yeah.
body naturally and for the first time, you
But
know?
when, I mean, they get so down on themselves,
Yeah.
and this is boys and girls all the way, but when they get it, it's like a light goes off,
Right.
and they're the happiest people on
Well,
the face
you
of
know,
the
and you can probably speak to this, but it's like as you grow older from that, especially like when you turn the teenage years, right, to like 20s and then even 30s, it's always about learning how to control your emotions.
Managing
Yes.
your emotions
Correct.
and your
Yeah.
failures.
Correct. Like when you watch again, like an NFL quarterback throw a pick, you know, they get mad, but they have to know how to just let that
Flush
go.
it. Yeah.
Stop. That's over with. And now back to the next down, not standing on the sideline,
So
slump down. I'm suck so bad, you know,
Yeah.
because that you got to get rid of that.
100%. That's the formula to success in anything in life is how you manage your failures, how you manage your downtimes, and also, are you rushing to get out of those downtimes, or do you realize that this is an opportunity, that you're facing an opportunity to grow?
yeah,
Yeah.
to
And
the
learn
reason-
from what you did.
I need to talk about my dog.
Yeah,
Oh,
let's
you
bring
gotta
it
do
up.
it. Yeah, yeah.
So recently, you had a brown lab, right?
Yeah.
Girl, boy,
Girl.
and you had her for a while, right?
Yeah, she was 8.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And then dog was out and then got attacked.
3
dogs.
3 pit bulls.
Yeah.
Got her.
This is a big pivot for people listening, but we were
Yeah.
talking about it a little bit before we went live, and
I'm
this
just
just
emotional.
happened. Yeah,
Yeah.
this just happened.
Yeah.
So how are you tying this in? Just talking about dealing with adversity, right?
Well, it's just mostly because I'm like,
Hurting.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
hurting.
Yeah.
And it's on my heart, and it just happened. And so to give some context to why I guess I might have a little crackling in my voice, you know
It's
what I
all
mean?
good, hey man.
Yeah.
But
Well, the bourbon's flowing too. Everybody's talking, so
sure.
you know.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough, and it just happened, and so yeah, that's part of kind of what I'm dealing with coming in here, just so everybody has context.
Right. But that's like you said, the adversity and learning how to manage that.
Sure, and realizing too that when you're down, actually that's when you learn the most. That's whenever you really can inform yourself of the truth, because what happens is all the yes people and the people that are just kind of they're not real supporters, right? But they are on the surface, let's say, you know who I'm talking about. They all of a sudden aren't there.
Right.
And if you pay attention, you'll notice
Those
those are the people that you can start getting some of that energy and investment back. And that's what life is. And then you relationship by relationship, situation by situation, you're essentially, you learn how to manage your energy. And like you said earlier with these kids, it is an emotion, your energy expenditure, even, and now as a business owner, it's decision fatigue. So if I'm making decisions about the toilet problem we're having with 3 locations and 30 employees at this stage, for me, it's not that I'm too good to do it. It's not smart for the business.
Correct.
It's not effective. And for the organization as a whole, I'm harming the organization by dealing with that.
Right.
Because it's taking me away from dealing with problems that matter.
Yeah.
And having energy to deal with those problems when they occur, knowing they will. And so that's the formula is, and then realizing that, okay, man, what a great lesson. So if somebody wants money from you, right, especially if it's petty amounts, always give it to them.
Really?
Always.
Oh,
Here's
let's go
why.
into this one.
Because if they don't pay you back, do you think they're going to ask you for
You'll
money
never
again?
see them again.
You'll
Some
never
of
see 'em
them.
again.
Some of them.
They disappear for the most part.
Yeah.
They disappear. And it's a weird concept, and it's not. Watch, I'm gonna get people.
Hey,
Robert, let me hold $100.
Yeah,
right?
you're gonna get slammed with it at this
But the
point.
thing is like, but if you owe somebody money and you haven't confronted and dealt with them about it, and you ask them for money again, then the answer is no.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just no. It doesn't matter the circumstances. It
Right.
just is what it is. And those are just principles, you know. And my grandparents showed me a lot of grace. They lived by grace. They are grace, you know. But in the same token, I watched them get taken advantage of by that as well, you know, and they never felt anything about it.
Just good people. Just good-hearted
They're
people.
just living God's purpose.
Right.
They're just doing their thing, you know. It ain't about them. And so, so that's kind of where I lies, somewhere in the middle, you know, of more, there has to be a little reality
Yeah.
You know,
So you can't be too soft, can't be too hard.
No.
Gotta be right there in the middle.
You protect relationships through consistency and through some type of personal principles about how you're going to operate.
Right.
Then it's not really personal. And me even saying this, anybody that's ever dealt with me, they'll say that's pretty much how it is.
Yeah.
And it's business is life in that sense. When it comes to money, unfortunately, it's the scorekeeper and it's the way, but it's also the thing that draws emotions and anger.
Yep.
And more than anything else, and greed and some of the emotions that are the less desirable ones that humans have.
Especially when you're working with friends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's really tough.
I think it's about, and you probably understand this as a physical therapist, balance. You know what I mean? Everything's about balance and keeping a balance, right? Whether you're talking about emotions or life or your core, right? Same thing. And it's out of balance. Are you out of balance?
Or what do you value? You know, like what do you really value in
right.
terms of what and people wonder, well, what does that mean? Because you can tell what are we good at? We're good at bullshit. We're good at lying to ourselves. And believe it or not, the earliest trait of intelligence in a child is deception.
Right.
And so in a way, the same thing, you're like, don't lie, don't do this. But it's actually the biggest tell that they have a brain that's built.
Right. It's the ability to deceive, to know that, well, and in psychology, certain animals don't know the difference between themselves and the pack. Humans obviously do. And we pick up on it quick. And that's what you're talking about. If I don't know, I have to learn that you don't know what I know. Right. And that's what a 3 to 4 year old has figured out. He doesn't know that I did that, so I can lie about it. Right.
And that's what's funny with my first one. It was so like, we were like, no, you don't lie, you know, like, but with Max, our new one, he's lying like left and right, and he'll drop a curse word here and there. It's Chelsea will kill me.
Yep.
But it's funny, man. It's so funny how it's just more relaxed with him. But I also look at it in that lens where I'm like, wow, that's like, he's kind of smart the way he's trying to bullcrap me. Right now,
we still know he's doing it, but he's trying to be slick about it.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference between child number 1 and number 2 and how you react. And there, depending on how your age was, what age you were at 1 versus what at 2.
Right. But anyhow, so I left there. So I did that whole schedule. It was crazy. Went from, working in the morning construction, doing the volunteer stuff with the school, and then doing the personal training. And then on Wednesdays and Saturdays for between like 12 and 2, I would do classes, which were like group speed and agility classes called Rock Speed School.
Yeah, that was that AstroTurf thing in the back, right?
No, I would just go out to like the Pee Wee football field.
Oh, you do this on your own,
right? And it's like $20 a head,
right?
And I'd put out ladders and cones, and I would do fitness classes. And it turned into where I was working with kids, and it was really focused on more sports specific movement. And then the parents that would be there would come up and eventually ask me to do a class for them. And so I did an hour for the moms. And then I ended up having there were points where we'd have 10 people in each class.
Sweet.
And it was like totally no overhead for me. And that's where I started that was like my first kind of personal experience as far as like doing something with in terms of business and with this type of thing, you know? And so that was kind of my, I guess, little micro experience with that. And so I got accepted into physical therapy school at in UMC in Jackson. And so I basically had to have somebody to be responsible for those things. And my friend Logan Fallow, who's actually, believe it or not, he is a 5-time state champion in the state of Mississippi.
Gulf boat.
For what?
Powerlifting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
From Biara, Mississippi. Yep.
He's got it going on over there. He's got a good program.
That's just to show you the kind of roots, in our heritage at Biarville. And they go deep, and he's doing that all under the radar.
Right.
Nobody knows anything. Nobody really knows about that over here. That's impressive.
He's not even a teacher. He's just
he's
a coach.
He's a personal trainer.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel like I know who you're talking about. Was he at eFitness at all?
Well, he started there, and that's kind of the connection. Is so when I got accepted to PT school, it was kind of he was actually working with me with my dad in the mornings, and then just really searching for purpose. I mean, just like I was. And so it was just a perfect timing for both of us. and it was kind of after his college days and all that stuff. So it was just good timing for him to say like, hey, I have these things you can kind of look after, and I have to go to school for the next 3 years. So clearly, it's a win for anybody it's a win for them, but if not, they can just move on. Right.
Yeah.
And so it ended up giving him at least a base level client base to start practicing, and that's all it all is a practice. Right. And so he started fitness for a little while, did some time at Ironworks, and then eventually has a great relationship with Rhodes and Gulfport. And he's a class act, man.
He's doing big things over there for sure.
He's doing unbelievably well. And his wife has a State Farm agency in D'Iberville.
Yeah.
Ashley Fallow.
Yep.
Yeah. So just an outstanding family. And they have, I'm the goddaughter to their daughter, Hannah Grace.
Sweet.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's good
real
stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Debbie Whitman in the comments said, NeoLife and Robby are amazing. It's been a few minutes ago, but I wanted to shout that out. Thank you, Debbie, for putting the comment out there. So you do PT school where? Where do you get accepted?
University of Mississippi. And so I went to Ole Miss in Jackson. And that was my home for 3 years, from 2009 to 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great experience, great school, great people. Man, I had the best time and graduating class. When I came in, I was probably last in the class. 50 people get picked. And I almost had to bribe, beg, and steal to get in there.
49,
Right.
Robbie.
49. Yeah.
And school didn't mean much to me before because it didn't really have a specific direction.
In game.
And whenever I knew what I wanted to do, I'm like, well, that's what I want to do. And so it was not hard at all for me to care and pay attention, and it was awesome to finally find that energy.
Yeah, a little spark. Yeah.
Joey, do you see that? I love that part of that story because I've seen it in myself. You see it in you. I've seen it in other people. You teach the youth. You see it. You see them as you have them in the class. And then I'm sure you've got students you've been teaching for a long time now. You see them 5, 10 years later, right? The student who was terrible at the school part, or he was a terrible behavior wise, or whatever he was bad at. But then once that clicks in you, you change, right? Whether it's you get your good job or you figure out where you want to go, college or trade, it doesn't matter to me, or sports or whatever. And then you see their focus and dedication kind of zero in on a plan. And to me, that always proves it's like, there's really not like a dumb kid or a bad kid. It's like they just got their wires crossed for a little bit and they're not focused yet. And a good teacher or a good role model or mentor can kind of pull them into that, right? And then you see that true definition of who they are.
Like, what is your why?
Right, right.
At the core, we're built of maybe 5 core principles, right? If you really break it down, there's probably maybe 3 that you could sit here and think about right now that are unshakable, right? And first off, we need to focus on teaching kids the foundation of like, what is your core principles? What are your unshakable beliefs, right?
Yeah.
The things that you have to, if you don't claim those, then it's like, what matters?
Yeah.
What matters?
Right.
There's nothing.
Something.
There's nothing to attach it to. There's no meaning or purpose, and that's what I feel like gets you through is like, in a sense, like determining what it exactly. Who are you trying to be? And it has nothing to do with things. It has nothing to do with money, And that's the facade that most kids are facing.
Correct.
It's like that's all I saw,
Yeah.
And then what happens is you get to a point where you get it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing. You're just like, oh, that's what happened to me in a way, in terms of my personal worth, right? And like self-care. Man, that's probably the worst that it got was whenever like I hit my 5-year plan, right? And for the first time, and I was probably the fattest I ever was, just letting myself go and just not caring about what mattered, And so, that's just, I guess that's the thing that we want to really focus on, or I feel like if we had a way to get that into the structure of the institution, is actually like values.
Yeah.
Like principles, and like that's at the end of the day, what what we're made of. That's all we have. You know?
To me, it's high school so spread out. You know, you got your cliques, you got, you know, what you want to do, and everybody wants to dream big. Everybody's got doctor, lawyer, blah, blah, blah. But that's
YouTuber.
It's not
podcaster.
It's not for everybody. And then the parents support your kids in any way, no doubt. Support your kids in any way, but be reasonable with them. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
It's I don't want to go to junior college because it's stupid.
No, it ain't.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You know what I'm saying? And it's people going to play JUCO ball. I don't want to go to JUCO ball. JUCO ball, sorry. That's where all the sorry players. I'm like, anywhere you get free money and people want to pay for you to go to school, I don't care if it's underwater basket weaving. Go do it. You know what I'm saying? If somebody wants to pay for your education that you don't have to waste money on, go do it.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with that.
Even like Chevron, Shipyard, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
They knock on my door all the time. Hey, man, you got anybody want to come out there? Anybody want to go to Shipyard? No, that's a dirty job. My dad worked out there for 20 years. I'm like, dude, they're making $25, $30 an hour.
Right. Now, it's hard work, though.
No,
ain't nobody denying that. It's hard work.
But
if you don't want to do physically hard work, well, guess what you got to do? Mentally hard work. And guess what that takes? A lot of other mental, right? No, a lot of mental commitment. So,
you know, unfortunately, too, a lot of your struggles, right, are the things that kind of, like, for me, like, I saw my family struggle, and I was poor. We were dirt poor.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom had a car that, like, the liner was coming out of, like, you had to, you know, with like the orange
staple
stuff
it back
coming
up.
out. Yeah. And like, so that was, I didn't feel like I was missing anything.
No,
I had a happy childhood. You know what I mean? And so it's all a context.
As a kid, you don't really.
It doesn't matter.
Well, no, it doesn't. But as long as you're loved and you got food on the table, you're not starving to death. Like, you don't know. It's just, this is our house. Like, this is just don't.
But I also knew I didn't want that for
your kids.
Yeah.
Right. Well, because you got older.
Yeah.
Well, you got older.
Even as a kid, I knew, like, I knew in a sense that at a certain point, there's a point of comparison where you could say, like, oh, well, you know, you go to your whatever friend's house and you're like, whoa, like, you have 2 sinks. That was the first thing I thought when I went to my grandma's house the first time. I was like, damn, they're rich.
Yeah.
They got 2 sinks
and a microwave. They got a microwave.
This is nuts.
How old is your oldest?
7.
Okay, so still kind of young. But you'll have to deal with that as they get older, right? Like, trying to
we talk about it.
Remember where you came from,
because
he don't know, or he doesn't know.
Yeah, and hopefully, and honestly, that's where my brutal honesty comes from, like, in terms of my own self, and that's why I don't carry any walls.
Yeah,
and I'm willing to speak on anything about myself, because I feel like, in a way, this day and age, like, this, what we're doing is a testimony for our children.
Correct.
Right. This is stuff that in 30 years they'll be able to access.
Yeah.
You know, our children's will know who we are, and they'll know what we, and this is just a chance to transcribe it.
Yep.
Right.
That's pretty cool. I like that. Yeah. I have a recording of my great grandfather that University of Southern Mississippi did in the 1970s. He was born in 1890, and they recorded him only audio, and somebody sent it to me 8 years ago, and I got to listen to this crap, and I'm like, it was mind blowing to me. I never met him. He died before I was born,
right.
But I got to hear him talk for about 30-40 minutes, and in English second. So
that's nuts.
Yeah, it's weird.
You guys are historians.
Hopefully,
you know?
if nothing else, if they just put this into a little time capsule somewhere, and you can.
No, it
see,
is.
Yeah,
it's on Facebook.
Right. Well, yeah, absolutely.
It's digital.
Facebook will be here forever unless Elon Musk buys it and shuts it down.
That's Twitter. That's Twitter.
No, that's the thing about to me, that's the coolest part about social media, or the part that makes the most sense to me in terms of a positive.
Yeah,
is that it's really it's a record keeper.
It is,
you know, and
for better or worse, right?
For better or worse.
Yeah.
But in the same reality, you know, there is a legacy and there is a meaning to people's lives.
Yeah.
And I think as far as the way you live it, this day and age, you can kind of just live your life or just sit at a table and just talk with people and just have a good time. But now it's like, it's meaningful in a way where your generations beyond generations, technically there's no reason to say 1,000 years from now, this
Correct.
recording won't be here.
You're right.
So, I mean, I think of it like, I'm a visionary, I guess, because that's the way I kind of look at things. Is like, I've always kind of accepted death, even like, because I'm just like, if that's the path, it is what it is. Like, my faith is something greater. And I know this isn't it. And that there's a peace in that.
You just said it right there. There's a piece in that. And I think that's a lot of times what society and people lack, because when you only believe in this, then it causes anxiety. You have to be greedy. You want to take more than you need, and
that should be a sign that it's not natural.
There you go.
In a sense, death is life.
I think the Egyptians talked about that all the time. We're getting philosophical as hell. I like that. That's that Blue Note joint.
Blue Note's got y'all
going. You're on the Rebel though. I like that
lubricant.
even. Yeah, I think Robby's putting out a vibe, so I like that. I want to ask you this, and I know this is going to keep coming up, the philosophical, because as we go through all this. But I work in healthcare, and I know I've been around a lot of physical therapists, but you got your PT degree. And where did you go right out of school? Did you go straight into NeoLife, or did you go? Because I honestly don't know the answer to that.
So I actually, so I knew I was going to. My plan was to streamline my path into private practice ownership.
Okay, this is where I want to go. So
So while I was in school, and as soon as I kind of figured out what direction I was going to go as far as physical therapy, because obviously I didn't mention this, but the reason I chose it was just because in doing this and working with these people and deciding this is my direction, I'm like, well, first off, how can I maximize my opportunity in terms of like potential business opportunities and capital and gain, right?
Correct.
Secondly, how could I learn the best information to give me access to really help people? You know what I mean? And what's the top? And that's what you stop at is doctorate of physical therapy. It's kind of the top of the ladder in terms of if you want to go anywhere from anything between kind of a general practitioner and or in a specialist, I guess you could say, it's like we fill this space in between.
Correct.
That's really just based
post-surgical.
No, it's really more based off of human functioning, right, in a physical world.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I'm looking at it from my perspective, but you're right. It's bigger than that. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that's the way I see it. Right.
Okay.
But what happens is people get that education and then they get into these little nodes, these little specialties, and that's fine. That's great. And sometimes you can really get into a specialty and really, boom, open up some doors and learn some things. But most of the time it ends up following you to a point. And that's kind of, in a way, I feel like that's the opposite of what I want. Like, I want to be broad. I want to see the edges. I want to find those lanes where we realize there's more commonalities than there are differences, right? And then how can physical therapy, and as a whole, if you really think about how it touches all these things, from neuro to balance and fall prevention to acute care settings where you have people coming right out of the hospital, right, in the hospital itself.
Correct.
You have long-term care, geriatrics that are in nursing homes and things that need care from physical therapists, specialized healthcare that's they're getting monitored care, and some, obviously you're going to have some individuals that are going to practice it and really want to grow within their profession. There are some that are just getting a paycheck. Yeah, they're just showing up and punching the clock, and respect to them, no judgment. But I just feel like for me, I just never wanted what I was going to spend most of my time doing in my work life to not be fun and like feel like there was a path for growth. But I need to get back onto your question. I'm sorry.
No, keep going, man. Keep going. And I'm looking at comments. I'm not ignoring.
Right.
Yeah.
But the idea. So when I left, so whenever my plan was really to get out of school, get as much information as I could to help get me to the point where I can begin my practice.
Right.
And so I found an opportunity with Melanie Fayard at Community Rehab, and she did a really solid thing for me in terms of putting me in a position to witness and learn, right? And one of the most powerful things I learned was how to coexist in a small office space with a lot of people and personalities, and in my own life going on, and trying to figure out, like, in my personal life, trying to meet my goals and aspirations of, I guess I've always just wanted to, like, be married and, like, have kids. Like, I've never been one to really want to, but I did. I mean, obviously I did a lot of trial and error, you know.
That's a good way to put it. I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But my heart was always to be settled, and like to just, because I just feel like that's just, until that's right, in a way, you can't really succeed.
Yeah. It's important. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's important. And people that try to just think that you can fail at home and succeed in business, they're foolish.
Yeah.
Right.
Foolish. You have to figure a way out to get them both right. Yeah. You can't win in both. Without winning in both, at least. And especially spiritually, you know, if you're dead spiritually, then your success is meaningless.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't matter what you achieve. It's all bullcrap.
Right.
You know, and you're still empty inside. So, yeah, that is life. It's all balance. But my 5-year plan was to get that experience. I went into a directorship position pretty quickly, community rehab, where I was supervising.
Where's that at?
In Gulfport.
Okay.
And so,
what year is this, by the way?
This is in 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
Graduated in
May of 2012.
Okay. So went right in here.
Went right in there.
Shot up to director quickly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right away, within probably 6 months, I'd say.
Okay.
And then did that for 2 years, and really, I just felt like it was I'd gotten the experience that I needed, and I needed some freedom to put myself in a position where I could start to see what was out there, because I was working like hardcore hours.
Okay.
And so,
but you're honing your physical therapy skills. You're putting it into practice. The
and
stuff
how
that
a business is ran.
essentially-
well, yeah, and yeah. But as a practitioner, right? You're out of school. You've done clinicals, probably a lot of clinical hours too. But now there's not that preceptor over your shoulder. You're doing this on your own. You're the one answering the questions without looking. You know, what do I say? Like, I've been through that. I know, right? So you're doing all that. And like Joey just mentioned, but now you're working for somebody else, but you're also looking at the business. And you said at eFitness, you did the same thing, right? You got to look at their model a little bit too. So you're familiarizing. I have points for all these questions, because you don't get a business training in any healthcare degree, really, right? No. Even as physicians that come out that run their own practice, I know they get some, but it's not extensive.
Still, they're not good at business, though.
No.
Yeah, you're right.
90% of them aren't. They're really not.
Yeah.
Because it's you get funneled into, if you're not, then where do? You start having to believe and trust in people and put your faith in them,
or work for a healthcare system.
Yeah,
I'm digging what you're doing, and I'm ready to jump into this. You mentioned earlier 3 locations. I can't wait till we get into that. Sure. But like doing it on your own, as your own, you're your own brand, you're your own thing.
And that, getting back to that, that's kind of the thing too, where, you know, it was hard too, because you help grow and build something and become a part of something. And my whole thing has always been like, I've always had a path and a mission. And I mean, obviously, being young, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, but in the most part, I know I left it a lot better than I found it.
Yeah.
Right.
Not to say it was good when I got there and it was good when I left, but I'd like to say it was a lot better in terms of just the business aspects, the production, the value. The referral base had definitely switched into a more orthopedic based population during my tenure, because it was a goal of mine.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see less chronic pain patients and more orthopedic patients. And the way I did that was just I figured out, well, I don't have control to do that because I can't go talk to them. Oh, I can call them, but they don't know me.
Right.
So it's like, no, I have their patients that happen to be here, and I get to actually deal with them and let them be the testimonial.
Right.
Right. And I learned really early, there's no faking. If you just learn how to be the truth at something, and you really progress yourself to try to be the best person at whatever it is that you do, like that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the because everything else comes,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But you can't fake it.
No.
And that's why I love martial arts, honestly. It's just because it's so honest. Like, you put 2 people in there and they jab it. No, close the gates and just talking doesn't matter. And it gets back to the roots of what we were talking about earlier, the core part of being a human. What are we good at And what makes us different from animals is that we can lie with words,
Yeah.
right? And we can do a lot of trickery with these words and the way we use them,
Yeah.
right?
And it's a whole lot easier with social media these days.
Exactly,
Yeah.
man.
Everybody
Exactly.
wants to sit behind a screen and bump them gums, but when it comes to time to do it, there's not a whole lot of them doing it.
Yeah, you got to execute.
Yeah.
You got to execute. So after your tenure there at the Gulfport office.
Yeah. So I left there and I took a home health position. That way I could kind of control my schedule a little bit more, see less.
But you're building, right? You got
Right.
that long-term plan, right?
And so my goal was within a year to sign a lease on something and get started.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually worked for SADS Healthcare, and
right there in D'Iberville,
right? And so I really actually, especially at first, I liked it because it was a change, it was different. I had freedom, I could drive around. But obviously, when the honeymoon phase kind of wore off, it's a tough environment. It's a tough way because you're
going into people's homes.
Yeah, it's
and different communities.
One thing I didn't realize I valued so much was just being around people. Like,
you're kind of a one-man band.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, when you're in your car, you're in your isolation all the time. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, I'm actually really like I feed off of that in a way. Like, I need to.
I don't want to hang out with myself.
Right.
Like, I'm definitely not like I do have that about me, but a large part of me likes
interaction,
likes that. Yeah, it's how we build and grow, and this is what we're doing now, right? The connection and sharing of ideas. It's meaningful.
Yeah.
Right? So so I mean, so I did that for a little while, and I actually ended up getting I got fired.
Oh yeah, here we go. More truth. Let's go. All right, let's go.
I got fired. So I've always been a rule bender, especially when it comes to rules that I feel like aren't allowing me to like work in a fully effective way, right? So you're going to call me a doctor of physical therapy and you're going to empower me to help people, but then you're going to tell me that I can only do it within the context of their home. Like, I had a hard time dealing with that because the idea is that isolation that I'm talking about is the problem. Like, we are all social creatures.
Right.
We need each other. We need connection. And so I'd go into somebody's home and I could see that was the disease that was afflicting this person.
Yeah, they're sitting at home all day by
all
themselves.
this other crap is all bull crap. And all these medicines and all this stuff. And so we would talk, and our mission would be to go to the grocery store, right? Or go to the pier under the boat, right? So it's now your job to get your butt in shape, and you're going to do this when I'm not here. Right.
Okay.
Because none of them are doing anything whenever they're
sit on the couch
there.
Yeah.
You know, especially the ones that are homebound, like that are homebound.
Give us a little context. Are these like super obese patients? Or are these people
It's just highly afflicted, high comorbidities, super sick individuals, which is you'd be shocked.
Oh, I see these. I see them.
Go into any neighborhood, 30% of that neighborhood is severely maybe more is severely
COPD, smokers,
impaired.
Yeah.
And when you come down to it, part of the issue is our lack of socialization and our isolation. We're not moving. We don't have purpose to go do this or do that or interact in different ways.
Body emotion stays emotion.
So we can satisfy our connection just with me standing here in my bedroom.
Or watching TV,
need this. We're energetic, man. We got to feel each other, right? And so that's a part of that's a part of the
it's
story.
physical and mentally.
That was my mission in terms of what I was. To me, that's how I could help this person, and that's all I gave a shit about. Honestly, I don't care about your rules. I don't care about none of that.
What was the pushback? Don't tell them to go outside.
Policy. You can't put patients in your car and take them to the grocery store.
You did that?
Like, oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was it. So once, you're ready.
So you're like walking them through Walmart. Like
it's confidence, man. People need confidence. We all need confidence. The same kids are just talking about. What's their problem is they don't have confidence,
right?
And belief that they can accomplish it, right? And if they had a perfect picture of that, and but the thing is, you can't make them believe that. They have to form that belief, right? They have to inform themselves on that, right? And so that's the trick. That's the hard part is where does that come from? And you can't be responsible for it either. Especially that's something I've always struggled with now as a mentor and person that really tries to attach myself in a positive way to people that I see really trying to make it and trying and embody something, right?
Yeah.
And also trust in me, right? And trusting in me and my abilities to have to do what I say I'm going to do, right? But in a sense, continue to lead by example. But if you're not pouring back, if you're not seeing that there's other people like you that are on that path, if you're looking at everybody like it's competition and it's just this cold, hard world and art of war, that's not it.
Yeah, you're not going to get there.
You know what?
The pie's big enough for everybody.
And you're going to get your heart broke too.
Yeah.
That's part of this game. And I've realized that's a part of the struggle, because so eventually, I did lose my job at SADS, and that was it. It was just like stuff like that, like I was just always, and what's so funny is like it's so funny how that's something I learned too. I watch administratively because especially with home healthcare, administratively, you have to be really sound, like very, very sound.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's something that they were really good at. And
SADS was.
Yes.
Yeah. They are the big company.
Right. Yes. Right? But they just were very well oiled and well orchestrated within their organization.
Yeah.
And so, again,
do we need some more ice? I'll go grab it if we need some more ice.
Yeah.
I'll grab some more ice. Yeah. Go ahead. Keep going.
But anyhow, so it was like a transition from there was tough because actually I found out I was fired right after I found out that Chelsea was pregnant.
Perfect timing, huh?
Like a week after.
So now you're frantic, panic mode. Yeah.
Freaked out, bro. This is what had a schedule.
Yeah.
But the good thing is that we actually had money put aside that from Chelsea from her job at Sicily's.
Yeah.
So she put $100 that was our deal. You put $100 if you work. Thanks, bro. You make tips. So she come home, bring home $150 some night, $200 some nights. Some nights she might bring home $80. She was there 5 days a week, and people loved her.
Yeah,
like people still regulars. She has so many people that they're family.
Yeah,
that's what attracted me to her. Was I would see how people dealt with her and how just people would jump out of the booths and just hug her and like she was a family member.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, like.
Where was this at? I know you're
at Sicily's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was almost my first job. I think it was my first job.
Yeah.
I opened it when it was on Lemoyne. That's the one she used to work at. Was the one in Lemoyne.
It's still open.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We when it first opened, everybody that lived in Cedar Grove had a job there because you could walk.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, "Well, I'm not bringing you to work, so you might as well just go ahead and walk." So I would walk to work to Sicily's.
And Alan Massey, another kind of a role model for me, was somebody I saw where he was building infrastructure for people to have opportunities and to care for their families. And there's boundaries, but there's also avenues for growth. But there's also where there's a point where he'll be involved and there's a point where he's not. Whatever night it was, Wednesday night from 3 until 7 or 8 or whatever, you're going to see Alan behind the bar with his apron on, involved in talking with people and getting to be a part of the picture. And part of it was him seeing how things were going and just making sure people understood that he was still connected, but still when he was not there, you don't mess with him. He has managers and there's people in place to deal with those things. And in a sense, and he didn't feel a burden of responsibility to sit there and micromanage people because he understood that's just not how you do this.
Yeah, he was a cool guy.
Right. Great.
And then
guy.
he opened the one in Gulfport too.
And not only that, he drove around in a 15-year-old Toyota.
Yeah, you wouldn't have known anything different.
No, that's what I learned is that real successful people, they're driving around in that rust bucket.
It's paid off.
They don't care.
It's paid off. Why are you going to get a car note?
Right.
And that was the first business decision I made is I sold a brand new GMC SLT 1500 Z71, that you just have to get once at least just to be like, oh,
Yeah,
no,
yeah, you
school,
got to sit in it.
making
Yeah,
money
Flash,
now.
yeah, flash.
And also, I was trying to attract,
Yeah.
we all know the game.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
had it for a year and a half, I think.
Yeah.
And I was like,
It's probably hard to let it go too.
well, not really, because for
What-
me, I've always been so, I guess, in the way when you're poor, there's something in you, I think, that always is scared you're one decision away from being poor again.
Okay.
And
When I say hard to let it go too, I mean, it's like, that's a big pivot,
yeah,
right? You got to pivot back to what.
It's probably the first vehicle you had that was
so all I saw,
legit.
I saw was a negative equity. That's all. That's just my mind.
Because
right?
most people don't see that.
Right.
Most
All
people
I'm-
just
I'm
see the
tracking
flash.
Like
Yeah.
I'm driving every day thinking about exactly how much it's costing me. You know what I mean?
Right.
This truck just depreciated $5,000.
Right. And so
When you drove it off the lot.
Yeah.
And so I did my best to take care of it. A year later, sold the thing, got out from under it, and I bought. I went to Mobile and got the Jeep Wrangler that I drive today. This was 8 years ago, and I haven't had a car note since.
Right.
Smart.
And that was it. I went from a $40,000 car to a $15,000 Jeep that I still drive to this day. I hadn't paid a note on it in 8 years. Right. I had a $500 a month note. Do the math. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so not only that, but insurance
Ridiculous.
yeah. On top of that. So, I have I think I have a liability policy, maybe beefed up a little bit just because if somebody sued me or something.
Right.
But
that's the classes that we need to push in school.
Yes.
I think to me.
Yes.
I mean, I understand English and math.
It could be
you
a
all need that.
No.
But
I mean, you're not cutting those out.
no, life skills, going and talking about all of that is what we need.
And it'd be a good thing too. I don't know. You volunteered for the football team. Do they ever let like adults come in and voluntarily speak to students on certain topics? I think that'd be a great thing to do.
Sometimes it all got jacked up with COVID, but
I'm talking about in the normal world.
Yeah,
but
I've had guest speakers that come in.
Think
and
about
talk
just
what
like
they do.
I always go back to this. Harrison County Development, Bill Lavers, and the program they're doing. You could do a micro version of that just in high school. Just have people come in and talk about their profession. You talk about your profession and running a business. You talk about being they know teachers more, because they're with them every day. But you bring in people that they don't know or they're not associated with, or they think they want to be. And it's like here's the nuts and bolts of what it really is.
And here's the thing,
and that saves kids time and gives them direction.
Do you know how many people in the community are dying to do that?
Yes. Retired guys that's got super experience and knowledge.
And not only that, but people with heritage in the community.
Yeah.
There's people right now that are dying to pour in their communities that are just basically just waiting for somebody to ask.
Yep.
Right.
Waiting for somebody to embrace them and make them feel like that what they have to offer is important. Right.
When you got, I'm going to say punch in the face with the fire and it said, you talked about adversity earlier.
Oh yeah. So
I hate to keep bringing it back. I'm just trying because I want. Yeah.
But a key point there was, so when I got fired, my wife was like a couple weeks pregnant.
Okay, I missed that because I was like, okay.
So like,
panic,
fire alarm.
Right.
So I called her. Oh, this is funny. I called her leaving there crying like, oh, that's my job, like blah blah blah. And that's crazy because I didn't feel like it would hurt so bad, but it hurt.
Scary.
Oh, it hurt.
Yeah.
It was scary, but it hurt. Like I felt like that rejection.
Correct.
Like I'm like,
I'm not good enough, or
you just automatically you can't avoid those feelings, And I understood. I was a liability. Even though I was doing the right thing, I was creating a liability from the business perspective.
You know that now.
So I respect them for that now, even though I felt a different way then. And that's growing up.
Correct.
Right? And that's also why anytime I've seen anyone from them or from that time setting, I don't feel any type of way. And that's the same thing for anybody that I've kind of, that's been on my path. That's still not, it's part of the professional growth.
You grew up and learned and use it in your business now. I'm
right.
Sure. Yeah.
You take the good with the bad.
Right.
Hopefully you leave the bad behind and you move forward.
Right.
And you just repeat, rinse and repeat,
Right.
and repeat.
Right.
And I try to think that's what I try to do with every person. But also how am I giving value? Right. So if you think about what do you do to give value is your attention. Right. People's attention is so, I think that's the one thing that we've lost sight of is how easily our attention goes here or there.
Well, it's all right here now,
and it's really all we have.
Yeah.
And that's something I think we all struggle with. I struggle with it myself in terms of just trying to keep my attention and focus, not to where it's operating in a way that society tells me it's supposed to operate, but in a way that's more in line with what I feel like, is healthy and even from a spiritual level. Right. And so I think it's important for people to always have that balance, but I think you have to think about those things just the same way you would think about running a business. Like It's just, you're managing yourself, but you're not just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're several.
Yeah. What a bunch of different self-interests and things that people want, right?
Exactly.
Self-interest.
But most importantly, you got to know who you really are. Which
your foundation.
And it really has nothing to do with a label, right? Or something that you can attach that kind of meaning to, because that's attached to this body.
Right.
Yeah.
The same thing I said. How are you going to have peace with your death if you're so attached to this body that's going to die?
It's going to rot away.
It's right now.
Yeah, it actually is.
It is.
If you drinking that whiskey, it's going to rot a whole lot faster.
That's true too. It's always hard for me to say this, but Dr. Wayne Rudolphich, which respect Dr. Wayne Rudolphich, but you coached Rudolphich to us. We love that. We love that. He's in the he's been in the comments. I just hadn't had an interjection point yet.
Amazing dude.
Exactly.
Gut check, baby.
Okay, so I'll read both of his comments. This is the most recent one, came across 2 minutes ago. He said all 9th grade students in Pascagoula School District take a career exploration class where they study careers daily and have guest speakers. Bailey Cuevas is one of the instructors. So kudos to Pascagoula School District for doing that. That is, you can't put a price tag on that, in my opinion. If you have quality instructors and quality guest speakers and attentive students, that's the game. That's the game changer right there.
And here's the thing. You can't expect administrators that are, again, just like what we're talking about with Alan Massey. He had his time, but he also had his time where you had to trust your people. Right. So when you talk about administrators and leadership in schools, you can't expect them to think about, like, in a sense, marketing in a way and community relations. They're really just trying to make sure these kids are getting the structure and the environment that they need. Right. That there's teachers and there's, all these different disputes and these different things going on. There's so much.
Too many fires to put out.
So, but maybe it's a valuable investment for schools to think about community liaison or community coordinators, and to not just, but you actually finance it, and not just expect people to do it. And that's a part of the thing here. And imagine how much that investment would draw a return, right? Huge. Yeah. All you're doing is telling these intelligent, smart people that are alumni of this school, and they all live in this community, to just, hey, we think you're important, and some of the things that you have to say could bring value to our school, and I promise you every single one of them are going to do it because it feels good.
Correct. Correct. And it's tapping into a vital resource that is underserved. They're not being underutilized.
Right. That's a school's job. Yes. Get people out in the real world to be successful, to do the next generation. Dr.
Rudolphich also said, this has been about 30 minutes ago, that grit, put it back on the screen for people. Grit is the key component that every successful person has, no matter what path they choose. He says, people, as with David, find their cause, all champions on this panel. I don't know if he was referring to you as David. I don't know if he got that wrong, or we said David 30 minutes ago. I'm not sure, but great comment. And always thank you for chiming in, Dr. Rudolphich.
David versus Goliath?
Maybe so. I don't know.
He might be thinking of David Gilmour.
You talking about from Pink Floyd?
No.
He's awesome.
So Wayne is connecting me to my friend Sean Merrill.
Yes. I see Sean regularly at the gym.
David is his I guess his cousin, and he lives in Tennessee, but we look a lot alike. We both played linebacker in college.
I'm sure he'll let me know here in a second.
We're like the same age. So
what do you mean by that?
Maybe thinking about David Gilmour.
Yeah.
A lot of people have made that mistake.
But so you overcome that. You don't go home and just like give up on life.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you take your punch. You cry a little bit about it.
Well, first thing I did was I went and I was just like, all right, well, because I was like, it was about, I'd say it was probably 6 months before I was really ready to rock and roll. Right. I would really wanted a little more time to sort things out.
6 months, no job?
No, like 6 more months for me to kind of sort out my leasing arrangement, find a good spot. Like I was working on getting my logo done. I was literally sitting up creating forms.
Wait, can we back up 1 second?
Mhm.
I want to go back to drop from sad, right?
Right.
Call your wife, baby
Right.
on the way.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. No.
So listen, when I called her and told her,
Panic.
Yeah.
Listen, so I called her. I said, Chelsea, I lost my message, and then she's like, "What?"
Yeah.
And then I don't even remember whatever she said, and all of a sudden, her like, she wasn't there anymore.
It happens. It happens.
I was sitting there like crying and boohooing, and she's just like,
Yeah.
you know, well, I got a baby coming.
You
know
better
what I'm
hurry
saying?
up. Yeah.
Right. But we've already heard from the conversation so far, you already had a bigger plan from the get, right?
Yeah,
it wasn't like you were like, I'm going to be the company man no matter what anyway.
Right.
So you had that plan in the back of your head. You get dropped from SAD. What do you do in that interim before so you say, hey, no, I'm doing my own thing then. This is a sign I need.
So my business plan was like I had been working on my business plan for years.
Hey, this is the nitty gritty that I want to hear.
So it already had all the details worked out. Like I already knew exactly what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it.
You just buying
in a
time.
progression, in a sense, like a 5-year plan. And all the way to the point where we're pretty much at where we're at now, you know, and there's still in outside of that 5-year plan, we pretty much reach all our benchmarks, which was 3 locations, and we're there. So that's cool because now we're on the 10-year plan. You know what I mean? And that's really it's so cool because in a way, if you don't have goal-oriented behavior, your brain is actually built for that.
Yes,
the dopamine circuitry is built for
you got to reach something.
It's all goal-oriented, and then you get little dopamine spikes but they're more profound in the way your brain really interacts with dopamine when you hit long-term goals is really special.
You mentioned it earlier about the people
that we get attracted to, they're actually wiring our brain to be more sporadic and a little more distracted and a little bit more. It's in a sense that's all our attention in a sense is wiring our brain for the type of way it will automatically direct our attention tomorrow. And everything's automated. 80% of our function and metabolic activity is designated to things that we have no idea are happening, right? It's all autopiloted.
Joey, you got it right. It was David from David and Goliath. Yeah. Joey nailed it. He's a teacher.
Hey man,
talking to another teacher.
Me and Coach go back a long time.
Yes, thank you for.
What's funny is that reference to David and Goliath is really profound because there's a book by Malcolm Gladwell called David and Goliath, and it was like we're talking about we don't have business school, so you learn these principles about business and life in different ways. In this story of David and Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell, he takes that as a point of reference to show like underdogs are actually at the advantage.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
You have nothing to lose
because you're getting slept on. Right. And you also have things that you're not considering when you're at an advantage. You're not looking at and studying and respecting a person properly, right? So you're sleeping on them in ways. Like, do you think if Goliath really thought about the fact that, like, you got a projectile weapon, right? And you sit out in the field all day and practice all day.
Yep.
Imagine if that's all you did every day was sit out there and throw rocks at fleas on sheep's back. You know what I'm saying? Like, this dude is a pinpoint marksman with this thing.
Sniper.
And you're going to give him that and have him, you know, if he really thought about the context of that, like he could hit me in the head with that real easy. And so, so like there's a lot of things that we don't consider if we really think about it and shift our perspective. It's really crazy. And you could do that with everything.
Well, you mentioned MMA earlier, and I love the story. You look at like a Conor McGregor, like a kid who came from really nothing, working construction jobs in Ireland, right? And hungry, just training every single day for and no money, no nothing. Then he gets to the top of the game that he's at now with a lot of hard work and effort. But is he still as hungry?
No,
he's like talking about sleeping on people, right? Yeah. We've seen it, and obviously he could walk in the door right now and kick me in the face, but it's different. It's just different. It's a different perspective.
Here's a perspective shift. My office manager, Becky, right? think of that Conor McGregor mentality
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, I remember a story where he's like, you know, that pit if in your stomach you get whenever you're about to fight, you know, that feeling, we've all had it.
Yeah.
You know, when you know it's fixing to go down,
Right.
it's like that.
Right there.
Oh yeah, in your gut.
It's like you about to poo on yourself, throw up,
Throw up,
and
all at
like,
once. Yeah, all at once.
Cry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
But
Shaking.
So that is adrenaline, and it's all these
Correct.
hormones, and it's all these neurotransmitters that are just kind of all working themselves up, right? It's your organs that are shunting blood flow to your muscles.
Correct.
Like all these things
Yeah.
are happening to
Correct.
prepare you for what's fixing to happen.
Battle.
Fight or flight, baby.
Well, one really wise thing I heard him say was that once he realized that feeling wasn't going anywhere, and that once you really now you start thinking about it in terms of that deception ability, that kind of thing that makes us so different. And now you use it in a positive way where you're actually reinforcing things about yourself that aren't really there, because you realize you're in motion, you're in growth. So you're not the same person tomorrow as you are today. So you can manifest whatever you want. And sometimes it begins as a lie, as a story you tell yourself about what you can do, what you're capable of, what a vision for something different, right?
If you're a 20-something-year-old kid in Ireland with no money and you've never competed at all ever, you don't come from a family of fighters, don't you have to be that? I don't want to say
be your hype man.
I don't want to say delusional.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say lie to yourself, because but you have to project that image to get there, right?
Yep. You have to build a dream from something, and everything begins as a story.
Correct.
And it ends as a story. But the idea is that once you acknowledge that there's certain truths about our existence that will never change, and that feeling in your gut will always be there, no matter what, whether you're about to practice and spar or whether you're in a world championship fight. So if you don't change your relationship with that sensation, then you'll never win. You'll never find a way to be a champion, no matter how good you are, how much you train, and how well you do on pads, because it's just not, it doesn't translate.
You got to embrace the fear.
You have to embrace it. And all of a sudden now that same sensation hits you as you're on this path of mastery. And now it feels like bliss. The same feeling is like,
here it is.
So good. It's in now.
Ring the bell.
Now what was killing your energy is actually lifting you.
Right.
And that's the key. But how does it happen? Through exposure, and through intentional thinking, right? And an emotionally intelligent approach to an irrational sport that doesn't really consider how important those values are, right? And if you're not talking about the things you're feeling and you're building these false realities, you're building a straw house, and you're walking into the most pressure cooked situation of your entire life. And you're having to do high level problem solving with severe dire consequences. Right. And guess what? That if he's the wolf and you're the pig, your house just got blown down.
Really quick.
Right. And no matter what you thought or told yourself or whatever kind of dream world you created, I've gotten to witness this, and like from such an intimate level, and I've seen it work and I've seen it fail, and I've seen it's all mental.
Yeah. It goes back to the Mike Tyson quote.
Yep.
Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Exactly.
That's correct.
Once you get punched in the face, it's a whole new ballgame.
So think about life in the basic context. And so I'll get back to my office manager, Becky, right? So she came out of a really tough environment, but I saw her in an environment that was tough, and I saw the things that she was doing, and I knew in a sense like where I'm headed too. Everybody I'm interested in really involving in my business has always been people that I could see are they're kind of like, they have that, they are the truth. They just don't have anybody around them that it's kind of, that is respecting them for that. And so that was kind of what I saw in her. And so in kind of working and developing her, it's, the analogy goes to that same feeling you have, that gut feeling is the same feeling people have when they confront someone, right? So if I'm in a business setting, and I'm a manager, or if I'm in a position where I'm influencing people, confrontation cannot be a bad thing.
Right.
It has to be a necessary thing. And you have to be desensitized to it by doing it often and frequently, right? And so how'd Conor beat that sensation? He just said, well, I need to spar a lot, like where it matters, not just where I'm in there, just touch button, right? And so that's the only way you can deal with it and process it, and finally eventually confront it to the point that you can transfer those feelings into something different, right?
Yeah.
And so confrontation is the thing, right? And what people do in the world is they have a thing they know they need to deal with, and their fear that confrontation and all the possible anticipated outcomes overwhelm the fact that, and then they don't do it, right? And then they build a different story to protect themselves from the thing they could have prevented from, like, it's in a sense, it's the most unnecessary thing that could be fixed.
Instead of going straight at it, they build walls around it and
now
dance around
that was
it.
pretty heavy what you just said. I hope people
Yeah.
I like what you just said. That was really good because that's correct. I mean, and you mentioned martial arts a couple times already. I mean, that's doesn't that it erases all that stuff?
Yeah,
because
it's
you've
the equalizer.
and it's well, but yes, but it is a experience. In other words, if you walk through a puzzle and you, or let's say a maze, you don't know the how to get out of it, right? And it's like you walk through the first door, something hits you in the face, all right, and you're like, oh, you lose. You go through it again. I know it's coming, right? Duck. All right. The next thing is like, boom, I didn't know that was gonna hit me there. Once you do it enough, you understand how to duck. And I'm not talking martial arts. I'm just talking analogy wise, right? I'm talking life. Once you've been through a few things enough, if it's a meeting with an employee, or meeting with a client, or meeting with a potential investor, or whatever it is, once you've been through it enough, you know how to deal with it. And you get that, again, balance where you can handle that. Because if you're in that emotional state that you're talking about, where you don't know if you're going to poop yourself, I'm trying to edit myself, Joey, poop yourself, throw up, sweat to death, heart
you probably will.
you can't really function in that. That's a hyper emotional state. That's the lion's about to jump off the cliff and I got to run and get out of here. You're not processing things. You're actually, it's not good.
It's almost like a blackout.
Right. It is. That's good for run now, go, leave. Yeah. It's not good for.
It's also good for a sprint, but it's
correct.
But if you get stuck in five rounds, 15 minutes.
Correct. You've already adrenaline dumped. You're out of it now. You're gassed. You're hitting that low.
You got about a minute of that kind of response.
Correct.
Right?
Then you get your head pounded in.
Correct. And again, we're talking. You're talking martial art,
right?
But that translates into life. It's the same thing in the executive level, and I think that's why a lot of people get benefits out of martial arts training, because you learn it there. Correct. And then you can deal with it. You're like, oh, fighting in a controlled setting here. What is a board meeting? Who cares? No, I care, but I can deal with it.
But also you just figure out how to manage your emotions, and you realize that is what life is. And we have to realize we can't hide from the fact that we have to confront our fears, or the fears begin to own us and have, in a sense too, just like we talked about, death is a part of life. It's because it's driving us to take advantage of the life we're given, right?
Correct.
And make every day matter. And people take that for granted, and they think they can't do that within the context of the life they chose. But you can, I promise you. But you got to stop looking at things in a way where you're giving everything of yourself, right? Where I'm giving, like when I started working, I was like, I'm giving all this magical stuff I learned and all these techniques and skills on these people, and they're so, in a way, like just more of like just an egotistical,
selfish way. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, way.
They're lucky to have me here.
Yeah.
But guess what? I would be exhausted. I was exhausted. I'd be so tired, man. Like I would just be like, yeah, it is hard and long days and everything, but I'm like, man, I'm young. I shouldn't be this tired.
Yeah.
But the idea is I had a moment of reflection and was just like, what if if I'm always giving of myself, and it's like I have this, like I start hearing what I'm saying to myself, right? And
if you're not talking to yourself, you're doing something 100%. Wrong, in my opinion.
And so I was like, all right, so let's just try this. I'm just going to try this, really, really committing and owning when I show up to work tomorrow, where I'm actually getting, right? Where I'm receiving. So and then I'd get in that eval with that lady, and I would just hold on to everything they said, and I'd ask every follow-up question, and I would be in this state of where I'm trying to receive, right? I'm trying to receive information. I'm trying to learn about them. I'm trying to really like figure out what's making them, what's going on with them, right?
Yeah.
And what's crazy is all of a sudden, that's when it's like almost immediately the switch goes off, and you're like, this is kind of hype. This is
Yeah,
energetic.
that's cool. Yeah.
Because you're learning things, right? And you realize that this person that you had no idea is going to have these really cool things about them that you would have never learned if you wouldn't have just cared enough to pay attention.
Correct.
Right.
And then that's when the switch really went off. Like, I feel like in like my early to mid 20s, where I was just like, okay, this is it. This is what it is. This is what life is. That's where you find that energy, is you actually realize that if you're really just growth oriented and day by day like that, you just, everybody you come across, whether it's the person in the gas station, like if you really listen and you really try to, like, there's something there to be learned. And
Right.
there's some kind of, that whole adage, wise man will listen to a fool, but a fool won't listen to a wise man. And I really started paying attention to that. I don't want to be a fool.
Which is, it's building blocks.
I do not want to be a fool.
Yeah.
That's one thing I do know. I don't want to be that. And I like that idea of being wise. And that's really what brought me to the Bible too, was just like Psalms of Solomon and seeing like these parables about wisdom.
Yeah.
And just like, man, that sounds cool. And maybe these influences and things in your life you never got growing up, they're right there, but are you listening? Are you seeing it and saying like, oh, okay, that's really practical, just to say like, okay, I can just do that. It's that simple. It's not hard. And when people try to put personas on and manage their lives in ways where I'm this person at work, I'm this person at home, I'm this person at church, that
it don't work.
Over with. You can't be happy that way. It's impossible, because you don't even know who you are at some point. You're lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
So I think it's about committing to being.
Where do you go to church? Where do you go to church?
NeoLife.
You go to NeoLife over there with Olmers and all them?
Oh, yeah.
I got him on my baseball team.
That's my people.
Yeah. I got little Olmer on my baseball team.
Jeremy Ulmer, man. Casey Ulmer, the best family in the world.
Yeah.
They just donated some pine trees to the cause.
We haven't even got into that yet. This is going to be a longer episode, which I'm good with. I've been.
We didn't talk about the councilman.
We haven't got there yet. As long as y'all ain't got nowhere to go, I don't have anywhere to go.
I got a half a bottle of whiskey to drink.
Good. Okay, good. Because Joey and I talk about it all the time. That we do a lot of things. Talk to small business owners. I love what we do, but I'm like, dude, I want to get into some of these deeper conversations, and I didn't know that. I kind of did, because I've talked to you before, but I didn't know we were going to. And we're there. We're there now. So we're going to stay here as long as you're good, Joey. You're good. We're going to stay here.
Good.
And I'm going to keep trying to keep us on some points, but I love it. I love it. And I hope the yeah, right. I hope the listeners and the viewers are digging it too. It's a little different, and that's great.
Part of this too is I actually wanted, that's a part of what I was getting to with that, was I wanted to kind of know a little bit about you guys' roots, because I have my perception, but I don't actually, I don't know the whole. It's come a long way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is a time or place for that or whatever. Yeah.
You talking about Brownwater or me and Joey? What we talking about?
Y'all's roots, and like and then like as far as what has driven y'all to commit to this and to do it for as long as you have now, because that's the thing that's, I guess, impressive to me, is that you guys have kind of like committed to it in a way where it's like
part of your life.
You're not trying, but you're also not rushing it in a way where it's lost its authenticity.
Correct.
And that's the part that I feel like when people play those long range games, in my opinion, and then you're doing what I was saying, you're just interested, right?
Right.
So you're having people in here that just want to talk about things.
Correct.
Or just cool, right?
Yeah. That's all we ever wanted to be.
You become a funnel. Now you're a funnel. And guess what? Just like Joe Rogan, right? He's like, man, I'm not that smart. No. Intelligence is all based off of you, right?
Correct.
Your drive for knowledge, right? And then how thirsty you become based off of that.
You mentioned it earlier, talking about your patient. One of the greatest things that I've ever heard in life, or that it's ever benefited me in any way, shape, or form, is listening. Mm. And I know we're talking right now, but when you listen to what somebody has to say, whether, like you said, they're a fool or not, or they're smarter than you, or you're in a room full of people that intimidate you, listen.
Yes.
And not listen with your ears, for sure, but also listen with your eyes, listen with how you see people's body movements, listen with interaction, listen in every way, shape, or form. And that will pay you dividends in life no matter what. And also listen emotionally. Yes. Emotional intelligence is something that is severely underlooked in life and has great potential, but almost no value in our society as far as how it's talked about. You know,
And
understanding what
that's
somebody, like you said earlier, if somebody gets all flustered up and bows their chest up at you, why are they doing that? Is
right.
it obviously okay? They're mad, but why? Is it
Why?
because they have some deep rooted insecurity that they're trying to cover up?
100% of the time.
Usually it is 100% of the
Hurt
time.
people hurt people.
Yeah.
Correct.
You know?
All the baddest guys that I've ever listened to through online YouTube or whatever, fighters and stuff. These are guys that when you really break it down, there's almost nothing that you can do to get me to fight you unless you hit me.
No.
And even then it's going to be something different, right? Because they've already conquered that demon. There's
honestly,
no ego involved.
When anything, it's scary because now that I have been training like consistently enough to actually claim that I do it. Before it was like I would tinker with it, you know.
Are you trained at Southern Elite?
I mean, I train. That's kind of what. So we train 4 days a week, and you know, it could be 2 hours a session, and
BJJ with though.
It's a Southern Elite,
yeah.
and most of what we do is it's performance based stuff. So it's really, it's kind of looking at facilitating martial arts skills and movements, but what you also learn is that's just human. It's like literally when it comes to optimizing performance, it's the same. We're built for combat. Honestly, we're evolved for combat. If you look at your body and your structure, especially if you look at the male frame next to a female frame, or you look at body types over time, like our hip bones are like 2 inches higher on either side, and that's all what protects our vital organs, right?
Correct.
And then our 12th rib actually is lower, so that's our, you know, provides
shield.
Shield.
The only reason that's missing below is for mobility, so you can bend, right? Otherwise, it would be a
and
whole
that's why it
frame.
floats too.
Yeah.
But that's all looking at it in terms of if that's just evidence to say like, yeah, that we're built for this. So it's really natural. And if you look at the patterns of movement for fighting, if you can break it down and kind of section those off, it's really therapeutic. There's a lot of value in really working on rotation patterns. And then what neurologically, when you work on patterns where you're crossing the midline, you're actually having to engage different hemispheres. So just think about, we all know and respect, like with a stroke patient, one side of their body is affected. So that's just how we're built, right? So the right side of your brain, the motor cortex, affects the left side of your body,
correct,
and vice versa. And there's actually a homunculus, or a very predictable way where I could stimulate a portion of a spot, and it's actually going to affect a specific area on your body.
Yep.
A mapping of
no different than an electrical engineer on a boat, or anything that has a complex electrical system. Our body is the most complex electrical system.
Wired the same way.
Correct.
100%. Correct. And that's the way I try to look at treating patients and our athletes. It's just looking at it like we're really just electrochemical systems, right? And we're driven by a lot of different things, a lot of different systems. But if we can really focus on the nervous system and the patterns that become automated, when you look at athletic movements, those are all automated, right? You know, you think about these really high end batters, right? Those swings are on autopilot.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So now all their resources just go to their vision.
Correct.
Right. So now the body's going to respond the way it needs to. Their vision and all the neurological resources can just be focused in on that.
Yep.
And now you get this great hand-eye coordination contact. And so to me, that's always been the deal. It's just like, this is just problem solving, and I want to do it in a really efficient way. And I feel like that's where you go straight to the fuse box before you start running and taking the cover off the outlet, right?
Yep.
Like you really want to be smart about how you do these things. And that's not trying to do anything other than trying to drive a more effective outcome. That's it. And like I said earlier, one of my core principles was just like, be the truth. Like just put in the work and become addicted to the work. Like I love work. I love effort. It feels good to me because it's brought me so much now that even getting out there and working on the lumber mill and working out with these guys and pushing myself, I think that's a part of what I've learned. It's a necessary part of healthy male existence is camaraderie. We evolved in hunting parties.
Correct.
And we sometimes we get too domesticated. We forget that our kids and our wives, why they are so important in the kind of the foundation for us in everything. But we have to have male camaraderie, hunting parties, we have to.
Well, that's
you
why
know,
that's why all these clubs exist, whether in whatever way, shape, or hunting, billiards, darts,
Right.
Darts,
yeah, exactly,
Whatever.
fishing.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
1,000 different ones. It's male camaraderie.
It is, and it's necessary, and it's healthy, and it's human, right? And if our wives really know what's best for us, they give us the freedom to experience those
Correct.
relationships, right?
Correct.
But also not to let it. It's our responsibility not to let it get overboard.
Balance.
And also, yeah. And if you put yourself in situations where something bad can happen, then you got to assume that there's a time and a place and context where you're going to be the worst version of yourself, and
Correct.
it will happen.
Correct.
And that's a special lesson for people. Especially one time I heard this person say, talked about getting on elevators. Like when you get, so this was part 2 when I got in like the whole councilman, to being a councilman, where I had to start really thinking about public perception.
Correct. We haven't got into that yet.
Right. But like when you get on an elevator, think about, you get on the elevator, you don't even think about it, you just get on it. We get on the elevator and let's just say there's a woman on there, right?
Yep.
And you're on the 4th floor, and then you get off at the lobby, and then you come off and you got 4 or 5 people that are getting on the elevator.
They saw y'all together, right? They don't know where you got on, where you
Yeah.
came from, a hotel room or nothing.
They probably have 5 different stories,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And I know Mike Pence, former vice president, he took a lot of heat from that because he wouldn't be in a room alone with a woman. He wouldn't
Smart.
be in a car alone
Smart.
with a woman.
Yeah.
And I think that got distorted. I think it was more along the lines of what you're talking
But
about.
that's just to show you, that's the kind of things that people don't realize yet. Like, you don't think about those things until you're in a public light, right?
Yeah.
Because the only reason I ran for councilman was 100% just because I wasn't happy with the representation. And so I'm not going to get into any names or personalization, but that was just that's why I did it. And I was like, you know what, this is my community and it means something to me that we have good leadership, and I'm not really happy with what it was. So that was my thing. And then I'm like, also, I have a lot of social anxiety at the time, right? This was something I'm trying to deal with and process, and just, again, experience conquers. Like, I have to expose myself to this discomfort to the point where I can deal with it properly. And so when you're campaigning, guess what? If you got social anxiety, it's fixed.
You're in the eye. You're in the eye all day
I've been a
long.
fan of that
Yeah.
for a long time.
Because you have to go knock on doors. And guess what?
What's it called? Immersive therapy?
It
If you want
is.
to give it
It's exposure.
yes, exposure.
And
There
everybody
There you go.
doesn't like you.
It's a neurologic concept. How many children, like children, it's textures, right? Because they're developing and they're integrating reflexes into volitional movement. And so textures sometimes can create defensiveness. And that's just simply sensation, right? And that's why I'll get all the way into that, but that's why my whole system is really more focused on sensation and feedback, and then really trying to put yourself in a position to where your breathing pattern allows you to receive information from your environment, even as you're going through more dramatic movements, right? And so that's kind of the idea. You're looking at interoception. And so a lot of children, the texture of grass might be really harmful, or not harmful, but they feel like it's harmful, right?
Any child that you put in grass for the first time, I shouldn't say any. They have different
They
reactions.
wig
Right.
out. Yeah.
Some don't bother, but some of them they like stand there like, what is this? It's just
That's
different.
right. And also all their motor development is happening based off of their exploration of their environment. So every milestone that we reach is our defense against gravity. Us just trying to defend and like figure out how to balance against this son of a bitch.
Yep.
And eventually it's just step by step. And so I look at it like, if you have a sensation defensiveness to that grass, well, guess what? There's a toy in the grass, and you really want that toy, but damn, this grass sucks.
Yeah.
So it's like, now it's a problem, because now it's limiting your exploration of your space, which is going to limit your growth and development, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the way I look at that. Doesn't stop. We look at like, oh, they're not babies. No, we're all babies.
Yeah.
Right. We're the same freaking little baby. We
babies.
just got a bunch of other shit around it, right?
Yeah.
We still can, because trust me, at our worst, when we're stripped down to our core,
Cry like baby.
Yeah.
exactly. And so we just get better at insulating it, but
Correct.
it's still there. So we can't let fears or assumptions stop us from experiencing our life.
Are you using that, or would you say that's an equal analogy to say like a chronic illness when it comes to poor posture or poor, if you're poor posture for a long enough time, your body almost becomes contracted I know from a stroke patient, just say contracture to the point where it's visibly noticeable. They can't move this, they can't move that, but it's also more subtle. Correct me if I'm wrong, where if your hips don't move well or your core doesn't move well, you're saying a kid won't walk to the toy in the grass because they don't like the feeling or they don't like the sensation, but you may not turn or bend. You may not bend over a certain way.
So you sit on the couch.
Exactly. Or you bend incorrectly, or you don't bend at all because of this chronic problem that I'm assuming physical therapy and you can address.
Sure. And physical therapy as a profession, everybody needs to be involved. Like aside from my business and anything like that, if you're a Medicare age person and you're not fully utilizing your physical therapy benefit, then this isn't a promotion for my business. This is a promotion for your own personal health. Like, you need to get in some form of outpatient physical therapy. It's a free gym, right? And we can do maintenance for those people.
Right.
That's a great point.
Right.
Okay.
And it's a medically supervised personal training from professionals. These are doctors of physical therapy. These are well-trained, licensed, regulated people that they're like I said, they're focused on really treating the functions that you have to deal with in life. And it's so the way you're being conditioned is really thinking about it like I got to get out of this chair, right? So if I'm getting out of this chair and I'm not doing it well, and I'm doing that 30 times a day, correct, it becomes a big problem.
Right. And Medicare covers.
Yes. Medicare.
I'm talking about somebody on Social Security, Medicare.
100%. If you have Medicare, and especially people with Medicare secondary, it's free. And even with Medicare,
doctor prescription, or how does this work?
So doctors' orders are all based off of our communication with the offices, right?
Okay.
So if somebody has a diagnosis that is supported by physical therapy and is a physical therapy diagnosis, like if somebody had a diagnosis of let's even say like weakness or a general weakness or maybe knee pain, right?
Unstable gait.
Unstable gait.
Yeah.
Like that is a physical therapy diagnosis.
Okay.
Right.
I like it.
That would be the diagnosis I would put on a physical therapy.
Correct. And you treat it. Then you treat
I'm
it.
treating that problem.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So in that case, all we have to do is notify the physician technically, but we honor the physicians by engaging them. Our office does all the work.
Mm-hmm.
All they have to do is deal with us. We'll connect with their offices. We'll talk to their doctors. We'll collect the orders, and they just deal with us. My mission has always been to try my best to just take out potential roadblocks for people to receive the benefits. And all we need them to do is just to walk in the door and to love them from that point forward and show them a different way. But what's harmed us as a business is labels. So people classifying us as physical therapy. Oh, I've had physical therapy before. No, we're NeoLife. Right?
Okay.
We're different. We're not
brand,
that.
yeah.
Right. And not to say that we're better, but what we're focused on is a patient-oriented, individualized care plan where we have the only people that are working in my facility are people that embrace those values. Right. And part of it is blind luck. And part of it is from failures, a lot of failures, right? And a lot of the failures in terms of building a team and people, the only thing you can do is look at yourself, right? And you got to look at what you can change and what you did, and because anything else is not productive.
Yeah.
And so, so I went through a lot of heartache and pain trying to build a team, but doing it in ways where I was more enabling people versus empowering them. And I was also teaching them without really focusing on having them like, how can I get them to draw inspiration and ideas from within versus just giving them. It's like almost like you just read an audiobook to somebody.
You don't want to be scripted.
Yeah.
You want to tailor it to them.
It's what drives us in purpose is what comes from you.
Correct.
It's an idea and a passion and desire.
Correct.
It can't be implanted, right? It's got to be authentic and it's got to be from within. And so it's not my job to force anything. It's my job to show people a way. And in doing so, it's helping me find my way, right?
And their way.
Yeah. And the fact that like we can intersect and that's it. It's just, I feel like that's what life is. Like I just called one of my therapists, Justin. He's managing our Bay St. Louis clinic, and he's our first therapist that started as a support staff out of college.
Oh, nice.
And guess who recommended me? Logan Fallow. Right?
Yeah.
College. I got this great kid, man.
When he was in high school.
He's from Nicholls State, played baseball at Nicholls State. Wonderful kid. I swear you'll love him. I was like, all right, just tell him, give me a call. And this happens pretty frequently now, not too much, but it's happened to me. I've been really blessed with a couple individuals like this. And this is just one example. Dude, I have a bunch of these now.
My boy, Zach.
Yeah, Zach
right? Scales.
And we still haven't got him there yet, but we're working on it.
Homegrown, baby.
That's right.
He's the honorable boy.
So the goal is we get these kids out of post-grad that are, exercise science majors, and we or they want to become physical therapists or physical therapist assistants, and then we give them an opportunity as support staff. All of our support staff are these kids. We understand it's a 2 to 3 year position. It's something we've committed to early on. And it works. And we have highly educated support staff that are really driven and motivated to do well because that's on their path. Right. Remember, like I said earlier, once you find your path and you
find firelights.
Oh, and then what we're doing is we have an environment that's energetic and full of life, and these people are seeing, because all my people are receiving all day. It's like that's natural. They get that. They're sitting there really living that lifestyle in a way. And so it's so attractive. Then you get these young kids that come in, and guess what? All my employees were those kids, right? At this point, we're 7 years in. So it's, we've been blessed with a few people from the outside, but for the most part, we're all homegrown. Everything was developed from the inside. And so Justin, for instance, came in as a support staff, quickly went into a lead support staff position where eventually I'd give him okay, now you're managing inventory for clinical supplies. I just come up with these little
titles.
Here's $1. Here's $1.50 raise. Right. And so just ways to just kind of navigate,
boost them,
people in these different ways. And also you learn about people too. So if I give you something,
correct,
right, and I'm going to pay you for this much extra, right? So you're getting paid already for what you're doing. This is extra. So now will you come through? Right.
Yeah.
And will you be consistent?
And power and pull affects people in different ways too. I guess you probably see that more.
Yes.
Well,
and will the title change the way you treat people?
Correct. That's where I was getting at.
Yeah. And it's a dirty word, I guess, nowadays, but it's like carrot and stick, right? You have to incentivize people.
Yes.
You have to.
And
there's nothing wrong with that.
It can't just be money.
And I was going to go to that next. You said it before I could say it. It's not always $1.50. $1.50 is not breaking your bank, right? It could be a few extra hours of PTO, or maybe a fourth, fifth, sixth Friday off, or whatever. You have to get to know your employee. Sure, and as long as you can make that happen, then that's what you do, right?
You're exactly right. And that's it. And just like we're in the influence game, right? And even you doing what you're doing as a nurse, right? And I think that's probably why it feeds you so much, is because because you're letting it feed you, right?
Right.
And people see that and they're like, well, I'm just not that kind of person or whatever. No, what you're doing is you're asking questions and you're getting interested, and you're allowing that to be like, oh, okay, that's cool. And that's following you all day long. And you probably notice it with the kids. There's things that they'll do or say sometimes, and you're like, man, I would have never expected that.
Correct.
Isn't that powerful?
Yeah.
Well,
you learn every day on the job.
Right.
And it's weird with kids.
Yeah. But you know what? How many teachers did we come up with that they were so inflexible to letting themselves grow from?
I know it all.
Yeah.
And kids shape you every day. Like I go to work every day.
No doubt.
Let them do it.
I can't wait till I see. I can't wait till I see what's going on today, especially in the shop, man. You see some crazy stuff in there.
I have to ask this before we wrap everything up. I got to know, because we've been all over the place. I love that.
And we didn't get to finish a lot of thoughts, but I think it's good because we covered a lot of stuff.
It was, and I mean this in a good way. It was real heady tonight. It was real like 30,000 foot view looking down.
That's really me. And that's what's funny. I can't tell you how many times I've been in conversations with people, and it's always always surprises me when they say like, man, that's deep, man. And then I'll see too how people react to that. Cause I'll see some people like, man, you getting deep, and almost like it's a negative. And I'm like, well, that's sad.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, why
did you want me to do that?
Yeah. Like we want to get deep, right?
That's what we want to do.
You know what's funny though, when you talk about getting deep, I mean, deep conversation is usually talking about fundamental principles of human psychology or life, and it always reverts back either to the human psyche, if that's where you go, and or a religious undertone, spiritual, whatever you want to call it. And that goes back to, you could say, Maslow's hierarchy of need, whatever you want to call it. You know, we have these things that we as humans need that we sometimes ignore and don't know that we need. I think society is moving away from a lot of what we need.
What's directing our attention?
Correct.
What's our notification?
Correct. And it's playing off of that dopamine hit that we talked about earlier.
And the thing is, it plays off our nervous system. It's all built. Like, because here's the thing, you have a reticular activating system, right? So this phone right here, when it lights up out of my peripherals, I notice when a change occurs, right? So if you lit that phone up real slowly,
it wouldn't do it as much.
I wouldn't notice
Correct.
it. I would stay focused. But the fact that it's a change, because that's all it does. It's just a little neural network that's totally separate. And
well, because that could be the lion, that could be the predator, that could be the whatever. Yeah.
And why is it the most sensitive? Is above you from birds of prey. It's because this is what, if you didn't have this and this, you weren't going to notice that freaking thing.
There's dinner. There's dinner, or there's something trying to kill, a pterodactyl trying to kill me.
Yeah,
that's absolutely right.
But these are actually goes all the way down to the fundamentals that we work on and principles of vision and fighting, right?
Yes.
And these systems we're talking about, these are meaningful. So like we train guys to, like my work with Alan and these guys, it's really, it's deep. It gets as deep as these conversations.
Well, I love that. I love that. And just like you say, you're talking about multi-billion-dollar corporations that spend lots of money to figure out what we just now are starting to realize as a society. Yeah, there's a reason why your phone dings at a certain time, and there's Netflix documentaries that talk about how much they know about what makes you go, oh shit, you know, I'm sorry, what
distracts you?
Exactly. And that generates money. So I get all that. That's great. And
what do we need to do though? What's our responsibility?
Understanding that, talking about these conversations like we've done tonight, and like the way you're thinking, I love that. But I have to get it back to your business, just because if we do this whole podcast and we don't talk about what you've done, I'm going to feel like we missed something. Right. So we've talked about the schooling, working for somebody else, getting fired from SADS. I want to know how
you keep bringing that up.
No, because that's a big seriously, that's a big thing for people. Because
nobody got fired.
No, nobody takes an L in life. I never lost anything. I'm a winner. I never did anything. There's no such, best quote I ever heard is, there's no such thing as a loss unless you quit.
Right.
There's only winning and there's learning.
You
learned and you kept going. So how you learned, and again, I want to speed it up just a fuzz, but so you open up your own business. You start in D'Iberville, or am I wrong?
Yeah, where was the first location?
Yes, so because you have 3 locations now. We haven't even talked about that. We got to talk about that.
First location, we're in an 800-foot little box right there at Spanish Fort Plaza, across from Pizza Hut, in the old Indies in D'Iberville, next to
you were in the Indies?
Adventure
Adventure
right next to Jerry.
Yeah. You weren't in Indies.
Across
the street.
Across from
at
Indies.
the white bill where
I thought he said he was in Indies. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, across from that would be fun.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, damn, let's talk about that for 2 hours.
Y'all got any fries?
Yeah,
no, we ain't got no fries.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, so we were in it was a Current Optical.
Yes.
Back in the day, right?
Yep.
So they moved out, I moved in.
Yep.
3-day weekend, family members, friends. We built it out. I was literally screwing the tops on to the tables that I made myself.
Right.
With me and my dad in his shed for like 3 or 4 months prior to this. Hand built all my treatment tables, and I upholstered them, everything, like just Google. YouTube, right?
Yes.
YouTube University.
Yeah.
That's the grind stuff we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Conor McGregor being hungry, right? You were hungry.
And it was hard too, because that was like literally I'd get home from working that schedule at Community, and then I would, no, this was months and months. This was probably a year or two before. And then I would have to go to my dad's, and I'd work over there until well after dark, and then come home at like 9:30 at night. And then, having to like make those sacrifices here and there. People don't really think about the big toll that these investments make, and why it is so hard to balance it.
That's why I wanted to bring it up, because this is the game here.
It is, man, and it is tough, but I think communication is the big key.
Believing in yourself, having a community to help you, like you said, your dad.
Have to realize that if you're always pouring into other people, and you're kind of, that's a lifestyle in a sense, then there's always people that are kind of, people want to be a part of something, right? And so I've just never felt guilty about giving people something to be a part of, right? And not because it's not about me. Like NeoLife is not a reflection of me. It's not my name. It's something. It's value structure. It's principles. It's something I'm striving to be. I want to be what NeoLife is, right?
Right.
And it's in a sense like I try to name it New Life. That's my church, right? New Life Family Church, and the URL was taken, so I went with Neo. Yeah.
It's kind of like Coach Dolphich or Dr. Rudolphich with the gut check program. Same thing. That's his philosophy. That's what he tries to be every day.
Again, you're just talking about fundamentals. You're talking about basic principles of life, and however you talk about it. And that's what religion does. People don't like religion. People don't like to hear about God, and we all are sinners and not perfect, but it's still fundamentals. Yes. Don't do that.
The context of religion is what is not important, right? In terms of what we try to do to improve, to be a figure of religion in a way where we're using it to exert power and influence, right? That's where it has a negative connotation. But where it's positive is in terms of the story of Christianity and how it gives you a framework of what Jesus's life was. Is, to me, it's an example of servant life, life, right? And living for something bigger than yourself. And then also realizing that some of that means there's something uncomfortable about praying for your enemies, right?
Yeah. Well, that's that higher level of thinking. And honestly, he felt bad for them because he knew they didn't understand. He didn't hate them for it.
That's the things that I confront.
That's hard to do.
And that means something to me now as a father and a person, where I'm looking at that and I'm like, you know what? Like, I need to pray for my enemies. I need to figure out a way to break. That's where I'm at in life. Like, I need to figure out a way to really try to bridge these gaps, and try to embrace some of these values that still hit me in the face. And it's like, it don't feel right.
Well, you're still human.
It don't feel right.
You're still human,
And, in the same token, I don't ever want to be seen as righteous. I think righteousness is such a curse, man.
That's what you see all day long right now on social media is, self-righteous indignation.
Yeah. Follow me.
What do they call it? It'll hit me in a second here. I can't think of it. It'll come in about 4 seconds later here. But no, trying to be cool on social media on purpose to look at me. It's called, you know what I mean?
I mean, it's all based off of like, let me go do charity. No, let me go do charity. And then, in a sense, that's a part of another principle, a wonderful principle. Again, these are great principles of living. And that's what I love about my church too. It's all about it's just the same way I do physical therapy. It's all functional. Like, we're really looking at, like, what are you limited by, right? What is pain? Pain's information. Let's figure out it's not going nowhere, right? Let's figure out how to figure out your relationship with that thing, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing. It's functional practice of Christianity, I guess you could say. And I think that's what people need in this world, in this day and this age. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, New Life Family Church.
There you go.
It's on Pops Ferry Road. It's
non-denominational.
It's the Dome church on Pops Ferry that everybody's a little confused about.
Yeah.
But what's funny is that these are things that make you realize that labels are our limitations. We're only fighting ourselves, right? Yep. And so people drive by that church and they think it's a mosque, or they think it's this, or they think it's that. And they create these labels that are always end up being broken because you walk in, that's not, it's such a unique.
Yeah, I've been a couple times.
Experience, right?
I went. Me and Avery went 2 or 3 times.
Yeah,
it's a cool church.
And the idea is, it's all worthless if you don't take something home.
Correct.
That can be something you can live with now, because we can only change slivers at a time, and you can't just say, "Oh, I'm born again." No, it's like you just practice being a little better. And you also find that shame and guilt are the only things that can really hunt you. Yep. It's the only thing that can harm you. And most of that shame and guilt we put on ourselves, it's not even necessary. It's unfair. It's like we do it because we're conditioned to, but we wouldn't do it to another person.
Correct. But you do it to yourself.
Yeah.
That's right. Virtue signal was the word I was trying
Virtue
to come over
signal.
there. That's what it is.
Exactly.
That's not my word. That's a
Put that
very
in the
popular
source for
Yeah,
later.
it's out there. But we've been in it for a minute. I love it. It's been great. Virtue signaling. Brad Margerio. Look at Brad. Another. I'm gonna flash that on the screen. Look at Brad. Look at that. Another St. Martin graduate out there who knew what I was trying to say.
Just taking another jab at the same
yeah,
versus
Danny, yeah, exactly. Danny Skura said, I need to get on that Neo for all my issues. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't want to speed it up because I think tonight's been a great conversation. To me, it's one of the things that Joey and I have had conversations about that we want to get to, not just the superficial.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight was a deeper conversation. I love it. But I still don't feel like we've touched on your business.
Right.
How did you take it from PT school in Jackson, started your own business?
Right. So we're still 800 square foot.
Yeah, your dad's making your tables with you. Yes.
In the box.
Correct.
Just got out.
Correct.
And so it was just me in the front desk that I could afford to pay while I was still trying to.
Did you take out a loan? Like I don't have to get too personal. I don't want numbers. I don't want numbers.
No. So we had $10,000 cash in a shoebox from my wife's tip money.
Really?
That was in Sicily.
From
Golly.
Sicily.
Sicily's still hired?
That she was saving. Bro.
Yes. Yeah. So
this is the meat and potatoes of what I want people to hear.
Yeah. So people always look at things but they don't really understand that. That Chelsea.
It must be nice. You ever hear that comment? Right. Must be nice.
Yeah.
But you don't understand.
She was grinded.
Yeah. You don't understand. Yeah. It is nice. Matter of fact, it is nice. But you don't.
But also, people can get lost in.
I got a little man right there.
Well, people can see the outcome of things, but they don't realize what it's really.
That's what I want you to tell. That's what I want you to tell everybody right now.
And so, it was just me, and for about 6 months. No, I'll say 6 months. I was recruiting a person that was really meaningful to me, Matt Mazzara. Oh my God, he was a PTA that was like I came across while I was at community. And was a student doing observation hours that I was like, yeah, come on in. I've always been that way. Just like I love teaching. I love, I know everybody was where I was, and I'm just like, I want to see, like, that's just another opportunity. Yeah. And so eventually my goal has always been to create like colleagues. So I love pouring into people to the point where all of a sudden now we're talking about new ideas that have nothing to do with what I'm bringing to the table.
Right.
And I'm like, now that's growth.
Mutually beneficial.
Exactly. Yeah. It's symbiotic. And, but sometimes you're meeting people at different levels of the journey, and the goal is to see everybody level up, and that's what we're doing together. We do it together, and there is no time wasted on like negative thinking and worried about what I don't have or worried about what you have and things like that. And so, that's a process though. These are all fun ideas, but the process was through loss and through failure. And but luckily with us in that first 6 months, again, patient by patient, person by person, just practicing doing this thing right, and then learning along the way, and
word of mouth.
Yeah. And then having to keep up with everything at the same time, and like get my notes done at the same time. And then as the load increases, you're having
how are you doing PT and understanding how to do the books?
Business,
how are you paying? Like, I know you're physically paying paying the rent, but like
I look back and I don't even really know if I could do it again. Like, I don't know. Like,
you ever heard anybody say that I was so ignorant to it?
Yeah.
If I knew what I know now, I would have never started it.
Well,
because you just kind of like,
obviously I would have, because it was almost one of those things for me. It was just like, it was going to happen no matter what. I've always been that way. Even with the PT stuff and being the last student picked, I was like, I'm still not switching
Tom
my major.
Brady.
Right.
Tom Brady.
Yeah. No, what I mean by that,
I finished third, by the way. I finished third in that class.
I love that.
I had a lot of haters in that class too. There was 14 valedictorians that came out of that class. High school valedictorians in that. In my out of 50.
Dude, you're like I was a student athlete at a party.
There was
so
some passive aggressiveness.
Yeah.
I'll say there was some heavy passive aggressiveness. I'll put it that way. And then the people that did it know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I guess a lot of times when you go into something new, it's like the unknowns are so unknown that you're I mean this word in the truest sense, like ignorant enough that you're gonna go in there and fight and not know what you know, and then you look back and you're like, holy shit,
Yeah,
you know how much
Probably
stuff I
should've
did.
done
Yeah,
that.
I probably should have done that,
Well, I see
but
that in
I was just so
fighters.
gusto
Yeah.
about it
I
that,
see that in fighters all the time.
yes,
I look at like even Allen's early fights when he was like 22 and all that.
Yeah.
And he was just like, you could tell he's just like, you
You
don't even
go in there swinging.
Or Ace spars every Saturday. Like my kid's a killer, by the way, and he's just the sweetest little kindest kid you ever meet. But you'll see if you look at my Facebook or whatever, you'll see some of my videos with him, and he's like a little killer. But it's from him just witnessing and being around and learning
that
from
environment.
me.
Yeah.
He doesn't know any different.
What guess what too? He doesn't equate it with like a negative
Negative
emotions.
connotation. No, it's just a sport. It's
No,
just a sport. Yeah, it's a sport.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think anybody that's ever in that eventually learns that. We talked
Right.
about that earlier.
Right.
But
And then let me get back to this.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, I keep getting off topic.
that's all right.
But look, so we left there, recruited some people, expanded the business. Luckily, we had some space next door. Was able to expand into it, and then recruited more people. Before you know it, we were totally. I had like 5 therapists in like a 1,600 square foot facility.
How are you getting your referrals at this point?
It's all word of mouth.
Okay, love it.
And then eventually, the word of mouth referrals become real relationships, because if you're a doctor that's really doing meaningful work and you come across a good solid referral, a big part of our whole thing is really engaging and embracing those relationships and realizing that that a referral is an extension of me, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're a provider and you have a solid referral that's going to come through, you're an extension of that referral. So when that person comes back to you, there's that big dopamine hit, right?
Yeah.
No, and all you did was refer, but there's a reward system in place because of an outcome that was generated, and it isn't monetary. It's circumstantial. It's literally physical results,
Well, if you're talking about surgeons, they want their patients to have the best outcomes.
Exactly.
For positive, positive reasons, also selfish reasons, also whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's
nothing wrong with having your personal reasons and positive outcomes align.
It's like a football player scoring a touchdown. You know what I mean? It's like
helped him and it helped the team.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you want to get mom, dad, kid, you want to get the family. You know what I'm saying? Right. So mom had a great experience. Dad's coming in. Dad had a great experience.
That referral, but he's also talking about from the physician's referral,
correct,
from other family members' referrals. Yeah.
Who do you serve? Right. So one thing I learned early was in business, there's no way to disguise the truth and the roots of anything. Right.
Correct.
Over time, all that rots, all that superficial stuff will rot, right? And what's left is the core.
Yeah.
And so I've always just realized that there's no way to fake that. And you have to be the truth, and you have to focus on people. And if it doesn't mean something to you, then you got to question that, right? And that's things maybe earlier in my career I struggled with that I could think about where there was times where I was like what they call compassion burnout and all this different stuff that healthcare workers struggle with all the time.
Yes.
And then what I found is there's a lot of tools that you have to put in place to protect yourself in healthcare industries when you're serving people to not burn yourself out, right?
Yep.
And all it is boundaries, and it's embracing confrontation, right? And realizing that you can't avoid and distract yourself away from addressing the thing that needs to be done, right?
Do you mean with the patient or the employee, or
with your time management, with your schedule, with your engagement with your patients, with the face time you put in, with the authenticity and how much you care about what's happening today, right?
So you had the office over there in D'Iberville,
right? So I started in D'Iberville at that spot. We blew the walls out of it
quickly,
man.
Yep.
Because the community's dying for medical professionals that can bridge the gap
the community,
especially a hometown guy.
Not 2 weeks from now, can be a part of my life, right? And help me with these issues, and help my daughter who's in dance that is struggling with medial knee pain, and you see these patterns of people that it's a necessity,
right?
And then the goal is that we should serve the population and not really get too focused on specializing. As an organization, we really need to focus on treating the community and their needs and within our scope of practice, and then understanding that our referrals to appropriate physicians when it's necessary is just as important. But you'd be surprised that most of the times we're going the opposite route, and we're finding ourselves in very expensive situations. And unfortunately, early in my career, especially, I would find that I'd be the fifth step in the chain.
Right.
Somebody would start at a general practitioner, and then they'd get to an orthopedist. The orthopedist would go to a neurosurgeon. The neurosurgeon would go to pain management, and then they'd end up in physical therapy.
Right.
And we're talking 2 to 3 years of suffering and failure
And bills, outrageous bills,
and pain, and compounding pain and frustration and weight gain and weakness and a mountain that's just insurmountable to climb. And then I'm getting to them there.
Right.
And that's where I got to come in and build that trust and overcome all these
chop
things,
that mountain into pieces,
all these perceptions, because guess what? When they're sitting in front of me, I'm the same. What makes me different? As far as they know, we're all in cahoots.
Right.
We're not. You know? And that's why private practice.
Well, a lot of people look at healthcare the same way. They're just out for money.
That's why private practice, and also like physical therapists' own private practice is so important, because physical therapists care about physical therapy, orthopedic surgeons care about orthopedic surgery, right? And not to say anything about anybody that has any type of those mixed relationships, because I know people that do really good and they serve people well in those organizations. But I think anytime you get into systems where you're, for instance, if I'm a GM, right, and I'm making decisions for my coach, that's kind of
overstep. It's an overstep.
Yeah, it's an overstep
because you have your own way of looking at it, your own perspective.
Well, you're hired to do a job. Let me do my job.
Right.
Don't
So if you have
multi-manage me or whatever it is,
that's what I'm saying.
Micromanage.
Yeah. So when you get these wires get crossed, right? So now who do I serve? Because if my livelihood is so dependent on that traditional referral mechanism in a world that has been manipulated to the point where it's all systematized, I'm being naive, right? So social media, SEO strategies and getting into Google and really branding myself in a way where I felt like it could be something that could manifest and grow. And then, like I said, really thinking of a business strategy where I've always thought of myself as the weakest link. And
I love that right there.
And how do I overcome myself? How do I overcome these things? And then there's areas I learned and there's times where I thought maybe I could outsource this, or maybe I could find a person to handle this aspect or this duty. And then you realize
it ain't gonna be as good as you.
I can't hold them accountable if I don't understand it. So there's no shortcuts.
That's called a vulnerability. That's a vulnerability in your
right?
business.
The difference between leaders and bosses.
Well, no, if he outsources it to somebody, that if you're talking about,
I have to understand
correct
it, to outsource it.
If I don't know how to build the wall and I'm paying you to do it and you screw it up, I don't even know if you screwed it up. Number one, and if I do I don't know how to fix it. I'm like, that doesn't look right. That screws up.
But how do you measure that?
Yeah.
Correct.
It's all,
you got to pay another person to analyze it and say, he messed it up. Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
So you tried to keep as much in-house as you could.
Always.
Correct.
And I've tried to build everything, even from building collections. I tried to build systems and teams.
Do you sub that out, or do you do it yourself?
Now I do, but guess who does it? My first office manager.
Thank you.
Luckily is now I think I may be one of his only clients, and he has a healthy.
He started his own.
He's a very healthy business. Very healthy business.
He was your office manager that then started at
and
billing.
now he does billing for 3 physical therapy clinics.
That's beautiful though, isn't it? Though is that
he's
beautiful?
in Arizona. He golfs frequently.
But you know him. You met him on.
I
started from the bottom. Now we're here.
He had an associate's degree. One of my patients mentioned to me that she knew a person that had some physical therapy background, was in her billing and coding class.
There you go.
And I reached out to him. And you
didn't know him from Adam.
No, I just said, hey, come, let's talk, Yeah. And he came in and we talked, and he actually, for the first year and a half, 2 years, was my office manager and did my billing and collections. And then eventually I moved on, he moved on, and then he came back and grew the confidence to start his own billing collections company, and then I became his first client.
I love it.
Got him back.
I love it.
That's the way I believe. Like my investment in him and our relationship over all that time, we spent hours, man.
Yep.
And I poured into him, man. I gave him my heart, and I didn't hold back. And so for me, in being able to go full circle, and even though it's costing me probably 3 times more, it's all worth it. It's all you share in that.
Paying him is 3 times more because that's what he
because
charges.
it's his company. I'm outsourcing it now
versus inside of your house.
If I'm paying him as
but you're getting trade off from that, right?
Yeah.
And you trust him.
And I trust him, and I do. That's the whole game. It's all
we talked about that on the look right here, Performance Diesel on the hat, right? We talked about
I got mine on too.
Yeah, you do. That's cool. I didn't even notice that till just now. We talked about that with those guys. When you go get your car worked on, what's the number one thing that you want? Trust.
Yeah.
If he tells me that my alternator or my spark plugs, I can't go deep into mechanical analogy.
Motor thing.
Yeah, my thingy thing. You know? Go ahead. Yeah. Are we out? Can we grab some more? If we do that, you know, if I trust you, I'm not worried about $500 versus $1,000.
Exactly.
I'm worried about $500 versus $1,000 if I don't trust you, because I think you're trying to jip me out of my $500.
I can build.
But if I trust you, which I'm assuming that you trust this guy that's doing your billing now, whatever he tells you, I mean, obviously you got to do your due diligence, but you know, you trust.
Here's the thing: where trust comes through is through boundaries and through communication and through structure, right?
Yeah.
And I know that sounds funny, but that's what I've learned through my failures, is that that's the things I have to overcome, is that structure's not necessarily my thing. Honestly, I'm more of a kind of feel it out emotionally kind
you're definitely an emotional guy, but I don't think you're not a structure guy.
But I've become that. That was not natural for me, right?
Okay.
And so where I've there's been ways that I've always been really structured in how I think. And especially things I care about, like the physical therapy stuff and all that. That's all easy for me to structure. I can really.
You were trained in that,
yeah, and that's what physical therapy school taught me. That's what I realized when I got out. I was like, you know what it is? I was like, undergrad, it's really most important because it starts giving you framework to structure problem solving.
Correct.
And so you start working out how to like actually digest that elephant and how to start like breaking it into those pieces. And I was like, you know what? That's probably in a nutshell what I really got out of it. And there was some like little tidbit. There's information that's mixed in there, but I'm like, really, that's the value. Is you start realizing that all life is just a bunch of problems, and then how do we solve them? How do we respond to them first?
Correct.
How can we learn the most from this in a way that's going to be meaningful for tomorrow? And then and now all of a sudden that problem's, when it happens again or the next big thing hits, it's not as
ready for it.
Yeah, Robby, why don't you have a life podcast is what I don't understand at this point. This is bullshit.
Look at my life, bro. I'm milling lumber. I'm building a house.
There's so much stuff we still have to talk about, and we're 2 hours deep into this, which is great. Honest to God, I'm not lying about this.
Part two.
Let's do part two. No, because I'm not cutting anything off. I got to get some stuff out. I got.
Okay, so back to
no. Let me go back. So you got the office. You expanded too big for the office that you had.
Right, and so then.
You go to D'Iberville, right?
So then I'm looking for property. I'm like, okay, what's next? I got to do something, because I realize that's the point now where, again, you hit your goals. So all of a sudden my bills are paid. Like
this is in the old office, or this is
the old office, because
bills are paid.
I'm paying $1,400 a month in rent.
That's a lot.
And I got 5
therapists. Okay.
You know,
so I got you. Go ahead.
Right.
Keep
and
going.
so, but here's the point where it's like,
so why expand?
Because
too small.
This is the whole point.
I'm lobbing the question.
The whole point is
that's
literally the most efficient my business has ever been financially. Believe it or not,
but that's not growth.
But that's never been.
You hear that though? You hear that?
That's never been my intentions. I literally could have stopped right
there
and pocketed.
But you'd have been in this box.
Yeah,
and that'd have been it.
Yeah, and that's where I think a lot of people grab that carrot. In my situation, and
the hell with the carrot.
No, I said no, man. It's got to be. And here's the thing: at some point, if you realize, okay, you go to even taking a less percentage or margin, let's say, because a good business.
Who
I used
taught
to think
you that though?
I had to learn it.
Tom Brady. Tom Brady.
I love that. Was a good one.
He restructures his contract every year to make a Super Bowl team.
Well, I had to learn.
He restructures it for less money.
Right.
I'm not. I thought you were just being funny.
No,
that was funny.
So I was able to get like in the 35-40% profit margins in those days because I had no expenses, and I didn't. I mean, it was like you know, but then I'm like, this isn't good because it's not like the storefront doesn't match the heart. And I've always realized that, like, you know what, curb appeal matters, and it means something because it matters to people.
Double
right?
down on that for me though. 40% margin. You're saying numbers. I didn't ask.
Yeah,
40% margin. Why would you take? Again, I understand, but I'm trying to.
Because they never.
Why would you take less than 40% margin to grow the business? Why would you do that?
Because I always thought of it like a long-term thing. Because
Thank you.
I was there 60 hours a week. Right,
Jared, he's pointing at me.
No, I'm not pointing at you. Actually, no, I'm pointing at me. That, honest to God, I swear to God, I'm pointing at me. I'm pointing at me. I've been there.
And when I heard people,
this is a different animal, right? This is a different animal.
And when I heard people say 20% margins, it used to make me sick because I'm like,
what's bigger, 50% of 100 or 20% of 2 million?
Exactly. You got to think of it.
I had to go high because I can't do math quick.
It's
I had
just
to go super high.
Well, it's just thinking of it. And
I'm serious. It's serious.
It's all relative, right?
Yeah.
And it's all, honestly, when it comes to, and that's the whole idea. It's when it comes to any of this stuff with money and finances, you almost at some point you have to have a different attitude about it, because it becomes your biggest limitation is your beliefs about what that money is and what it can do.
Correct.
And like, in terms of like what I used to feel about financing, because I never wanted to be in debt, you know, but then
debt is great if you can generate money off of the debt.
Well, financing is good because you get tax deductions. You get tax deductions. Right?
Well, but you have to be generating profit, or tax deductions doesn't mean anything.
Well,
but I know what you're saying, because you're coming from a successful business.
Well, too, I had to learn from people before I even made money. I used to just really surround myself with people that would talk about these things, and that's a part of even going to the council and like really taking advantage of of learning about people of like that got to some places,
rubbing elbows,
that done some things, right? And you know what? That's some of the most meaningful stuff, because I really hung on to you hang on to these little memes almost, you know, where it's just these little sound bites, and you start realizing that there are certain principles that you have to follow, and sometimes what you don't pay in taxes may be what you generate at some point.
Correct.
Right. And then but also realizing that if you're not paying taxes and you're trying to be like, compliance is the most profitable measure, right?
Yes.
And doing things within the boundaries is actually the most profitable measure.
Correct.
Like, you have to do things the right way.
Checks and balances.
And the thing is, and when you find out something's wrong, you got to fix it.
Yeah. We royally screwed ours up.
Well, that's funny, but yeah, it's a different level of game. But I've also heard people that make millions and millions of dollars say that I want to hit the next tax bracket.
Yes.
Yeah, I absolutely want to pay
Mr.
because it's all progressive, you know. The tax bracket is.
Bob Mandel said to me, he said, you should be grateful for when you write your taxes. And I'm like, what?
Well,
it's kind of like forgiving your enemies. I'm like, what?
No.
He said, no. He goes, because that means that that's how much money you made. He goes, you should be proud of that.
Well,
I'm like, that's such a great way to think about it.
That is right in principle. The only thing that's kind of flustering me up right now,
I hate taxes.
But he's not talking.
No, I don't. No,
he's not talking about that. He's got write-offs out the wazoo.
That's fine.
CPAs,
that's because that's called legal.
Else, you know?
That's called legal.
Sure.
That is legal. All these stories you hear on the news about so and so doesn't pay $0 in taxes. That's all.
Yes,
a fabrication
that's way
of a truth.
Level, yeah.
It is. But here's the thing. Yes, you want to pay taxes, but you want to know that your tax dollars are going at least for your country or in a certain way, and we can all debate that. We can have a whole nother.
You want to know what makes
we can
me
have
nauseous?
47
payroll taxes, right?
That's crazy.
So
how do you learn? How do you navigate that waterway? Did you hire somebody?
Here's
or you
what
figured
was
it out?
interesting to me. I didn't
trial
account.
and error.
If me and Joey wanted to hire somebody today,
right?
Which we're just making our wives work for free, because that's what women should do.
Because they love us.
See, anybody get that? Because that's what women should do. I want to get the emails.
know.
I want to.
I
want to get the emails and the hater comments.
We just got canceled.
It's a joke. It's a joke, but it's true.
Yeah,
honestly. But if we wanted to hire somebody tomorrow, I don't know anything about payroll taxes or how I'm supposed to do that. How did you just learn it through trial by fire?
So, for instance,
YouTube University.
We're talking about an elephant, right? Well, you just
one bite at a time.
So you plucked out his liver.
Yep.
Payroll taxes. What does that mean? Okay, Google.
You did this though, literally
every day. This is my life. People don't realize. Like, I taught myself how to weld.
I don't want.
I've literally a commercially.
I know you're milling.
I
wood.
built a commercial kiln.
I've seen it.
Yes.
The
I've
meal is
seen
not,
it.
not shit. The kill is my thing that I'm most proud of, because I did this like 6 months under the radar without anybody knowing, and it's bad, dude.
All right, but so as an operator of a business, do you had to pull yourself out of actual physical therapy rehab, correct? Because you've built a team. Not saying that's a fault. I'm saying that's a great thing.
I can only directly help and influence so many people. It was a quick realization that I have to really start learning how to be a leader of leaders.
Correct.
And my aunt, who was a huge mentor for me and like brought me into physical therapy and actually gave me a lane to look at and a person to look at. She actually was in a private practice in Louisiana. And it's my dad's sister. So real close. Like we're all, I mean, it's a family, you know, it's an interesting part of my whole family dynamic, because even with her, she was kind of more like it was all different because of how I came into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just felt different to everybody just by the way I came into it. So in a way, I almost felt like I was given a lot more, like kind of golden child, you know. Maybe I was a little too built up at that point, right? And I had to get humbled a little bit, you know.
Well, I mean, you took a lot, but you're giving a lot back.
Sure,
Yeah.
right? And so anyway, so Linda is so, she's such a special person to me, and she was really a big part of my path. And that's one thing that when I started this, she would really I guess giving meaningful advice in terms of how to manage people and what it all meant, you know, and then always kind of almost keeping me in check along the way as well. And she was with me for like my whole first 3 years. And I just want to make sure to mention her, because
so you had an advisor. That was your advisor.
I had a lot of people looking out for me.
Yeah.
You know, I had a lot of people.
But you took advantage of it.
But I also had people that there was times where I had to do something different, and it wasn't fun. It wasn't really you know, it's not fun confronting, you know, and when relationships change, and all of a sudden I'm, you know, unfortunately, like I hate it because it was like, it's weird in a way. All of a sudden you're employing your mentor. Like that's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it just gets now it's
what
like,
about Brady and Bledsoe? I don't know why I keep using Brady. I watched a documentary.
The Last
on him.
Man.
I did. I watched a documentary on him.
But
I'm a Saints fan. I just want that back on.
But
seriously though, I mean, you surpass your mentors sometimes. I don't want to say surpass.
No. Yeah, I don't want to say it like that, because her goals and mission in life was totally different, right?
Okay, let me just say, you get to a certain point where you change the role, whether that's surpassing or it's just a different dynamic.
It's a different dynamic.
Correct.
And she was at a position in her career where it was actually really kind of where she wanted to be, because she's not, you know, she wasn't trying to, she's already gotten out of her private practice, and it was like a time for her to really focus and pour energy into me and what I was doing. And at a time where I needed it, you know what I mean? And so yeah, I'm forever.
Well, that was her job. That was her will at that point.
Right.
Yeah, that's where she was put.
Right.
We still have not got to you being a city councilman.
Yeah.
And I think this has to be a 2-part episode.
But we didn't finish with the so
I want to know about the three.
Yeah.
Let's, before we end tonight, which again, I'm not trying to rush. I'm not trying to rush at all.
Isn't it hard to cover?
No, dude, we're at 2 hours and 26 minutes, which I love. Yeah. This has been great. I've been wanting to do this, and I want to see what the numbers look like. I want to see what the fans think about it. I want to see what the audience thinks about it, because I know there's been super amounts of nuggets in it tonight, and I hope they can dissect it. I've been taking notes.
Chicken nuggets.
I'm on spring break. I got a playoff game tomorrow, but that's not till 5 o'clock.
We don't care about that. Yeah. Honestly,
we're talking about London Adams.
Don't go off on a tangent, please. Because
London's in my class. He's not on my team.
Here we go.
He needs to play more.
And now we're done.
He's on my team.
I know. Well, he needs to get in more. Just by the way, I'll just leave that there.
I don't have anything to do with it.
We haven't talked about you training Alan Belcher.
Yeah,
we haven't talked about
it's a 2-part series.
It's gotta be.
Yeah,
but it's got to be like bang bang. We need to do it like within 5 days of each other. Yeah, or something. Like. Can you do that? What's your schedule?
For me, this is just like really, I'm just happy.
Cathartic.
No, it's really cool, and I'm really happy to be here. And for me, I look at it as a very valuable thing, because, like I said, it is a historian thing, and I've never really, honestly, just laid it out like that. Yeah. In all reality, I kind of in this type of way too, where like I'd like it to get to the point where like I can go once I got all this off my chest, and I want to learn about you guys' I want to know some more about what's going on with you guys. You know what I mean?
We'll do a part 3 episode and you interview us.
Yeah, you can sit right here, control the camera.
No, you got to sit right there. There's my seat. I'm not
right.
But no, seriously, we haven't even talked about Alan Belcher. I mean, you're training a former, and my
people forget. Man.
No, my cousin trained Alan on his hands, Rodney Duron.
Mm-hmm.
You're now doing that thing, and it all ties into your business. And I love what we've done. We've went all 10,000, 30,000.
I work with Rodney. I work with Alan. I work with all the promotions. I work with their fighters. I sponsor fighters.
We haven't even talked about core. We haven't even talked about the posture. We haven't even talked about nothing.
Terrible chairs were sitting.
Yeah, we haven't talked about shit.
All right, let me tell you one thing. I thought brown water Banter was just because we live on the coast and the water's brown.
That's the number one thing.
Main thing.
But the secondary
you said that.
This is the secondary thing.
That's the second thing.
And I didn't realize it was lubricated by
correct.
Okay.
Bourbon. And the third thing, if you go back to episode 1, you'll go check it out. Was if you don't drink, because some people don't drink, and I know people don't. Some people don't drink. It's coffee, and we've never touched on coffee, and maybe we'll do that in the 200th episodes because I love coffee.
I think you should.
I love coffee.
I think it should be experimentation. So like, okay, we're going to get really caffeinated for this episode.
No,
we're going to do this for this episode. Just try it out.
City councilman, you were in D'Iberville. She's in Biloxi, but Dixie Newman. Yeah, we jacked up when we were back on Howard Avenue. We drank a ton of their stuff.
So look,
and I love their stuff.
Here's this.
What is it called? The OG drip. She had the whole Japanese thing going on. It's awesome.
So look them up. Like that's the weirdest part about like life, right? Is that it's all, especially here on the coast, it's so tight knit.
Oh yeah,
like it is 1 degree.
That's what I love about it,
right?
dude.
So Dixie grew up where my grandparents lived. There was a ditch that separated. It was like just a drainage low point that separated that property and the property behind it. And if you cross that, there was another lot that faced Brody Road, but you can get to it from the backside. And Dixie would live there for a long period of time whenever we were kids with her mom. And so I knew her and like them back then. And then she was a cheerleader on our state championship team at D'Iberville. And so like literally it's crazy when you grow up here because
you're related to everyone.
Yeah, not only that, but you got tons of experience.
Well, I don't think people that are in big cities, they don't really experience that. And then that's easily something that you could probably make fun of, I guess, if you wanted to. But it's super cool. I mean, beautiful. Joey and I's grandparents knew each other when they were going off to war to Korea.
Yeah,
I didn't know that when I met this dude. I would have probably never spoke to him.
My grandpa is from Illinois, and he came here and married my 16-year-old grandma.
And nowadays they went to jail.
Yeah. So look,
which is the same thing.
She was probably 17.
No. I'll put this out here on Facebook.
No, it was like 15, 13 back then.
Yeah.
It was nothing.
My grandfather was. I wish she was here right now. I think he was 20. She was 15.
Yeah.
He went to her dad. Can I marry her, please? They got married.
So please take her. She's
the whole family, and he's been deceased, and she's been widowed for at least 20-something years, and she still talks about him. You know what I mean? It's like love is love,
just
right?
To give you another little sample of the well of crap that we haven't talked about, the 40 acres that is I-110 from the interstate all the way down. So think about Big Ridge Road and everything to the west of that. Past I-110, probably another 50 feet, right? And then take that down 40 acres from like Golden Gate skate rink, all the way up to the interstate.
So the Galleria,
that was your family.
This was my great grandpa.
Yeah, but you know what that was
Jesse
called
Parker.
back then? You know what that was called back then? That was called farmland.
Yeah, it was farmland. Yeah, it was like wool market.
Oh yeah,
it was. Like
I've heard
right?
I've heard my grandparents talk. They lived in Biloxi,
right
downtown. When you went north of what we call I-10 now, which it was not that bridge then. This was called the country.
Yeah.
And it was like, there's a few pictures floating around.
Big Ridge. Past Big Ridge was
no. I'm talking about
as soon
as you go over 110 where the
your country
where the Waffle House is at.
Yeah,
that was the country. It was all
North Biloxi.
It looked like
Latimer.
Latimer. Yeah. Exactly. It looked like Latimer with cow fields and barbed wire fence. Yeah.
Rusty says, now they call us South. Now they call them South D'Iberville.
Ooh, that's and we're about to have them on the show. We gotta reach out to Rusty because we're gonna do the mayor session.
Oh, you got Rusty on here.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
That's
And
great.
we didn't even get into your city council stuff.
Mhm.
We're gonna have to go back to that.
Sure.
I think we've done a great show tonight.
Mhm.
This is what I've been wanting to do. It was
The
amazing.
nitty gritty.
And we haven't even touched on everything yet. I still want to know how you're managing 3 properties before we end it tonight.
Yeah.
And I hate to cut it off because I could go 4 or 5 hours on this, but tell us how you went from where you said in D'Iberville
Mhm.
to expand into getting to a bigger facility. Now you're in D'Iberville. If people don't know, you're at where Pops Ferry meets what is that, Central still, right? You're where Pops Ferry meets
At the
Central.
old pawn shop.
Yes.
It's basically Galleria Boulevard and Pops Ferry Road intersection, but they're doing a new Pops Ferry Road relocation.
Oh yeah, I've
project,
already but
which is basically
which is also another thing of is that how smart were you to be able to pick that spot out before it became a thing, right?
Well, it was smart, but I paid for it, and that's the thing. It was valued high, and it set on the market a long time.
You're talking about the metal
corner,
building that was
that corner. And here's another.
No, I'm asking the metal building that was the pawn
It was
shop.
Biloxi Back Bay Pawn.
Correct.
Yeah,
It was valued high.
Miss Wendy
and
Fayard in there.
It was, yeah, they had it listed very high, and it was,
you looked at LTV,
I was
long-term
looking
value.
I was really looking around. I wasn't sold on it. I passed by it a bunch of times, but I called on the price and I was like, no.
Yeah.
And then I was like, Mr. Bob Mandel, I said, I need you to just take a ride with me. I'd done my research. I downloaded Land Glide.
Yep.
And
I got that on my phone.
So I found all the parcels I was interested in. I knew what the situations were on them. I did any research on ones that I felt like I was wanting to pursue. I had like 5 locations on Potts Ferry Road. And then I was just kind of doing my due diligence myself. But then I was like, Mr. Bob, I just want you to ride with me. And so one day I just literally drove, I kidnapped him. I said,
in your car though, that's impressive too,
Oh,
right?
no,
This dude, that
we're tight.
he don't care.
We're tight. Yeah. I've treated him as a patient.
Okay.
I adore him as a mentor, man.
Correct.
He's been
Correct.
He's been influential in my life, and I hope he always knows that. But even my house that I'm building is kind of similar in terms of his layout and stuff like that,
right?
But also I see, I like, again, you see the blessings and the curses with every type of situation, lifestyle, and and for him, a lot of his was his time, and he lost a lot of time with his family. And that's the thing, is people like that share their regrets and things like that with you.
Correct.
Dude, you better listen.
You just nailed that too. I see that in healthcare.
Right.
When somebody shares their deathbed regrets with you,
pay attention. Because honestly, if you just live for that, if you just lived in a way where you remind yourself, like, how do I not have regrets at the end?
Yep. Or you watch and I've done this because I worked in the ICU for many years. You watch I'm going to make up the number, 20, 25, 30-year-old couple say their goodbyes to each other.
Oh, that's tough.
Bruh. And you're like, oh my God, and I was like probably 25, 6 when that happened. 7, 8, 9. I'm just saying, you see that and you go, okay, so life is not what I think it is at 26. No. It's not what I think it is at 38, which is what I am now. It's not
ever.
And it could end tonight.
Ever.
It's crazy.
It's kind of like what I've been debating with coaching baseball. And I've coached baseball for the last 13 years. And I've seen people go out and want to do high school and want to get in the grind. And I've talked to all these coaches who have coached all that. And their biggest regret is watching their kids grow up.
Yeah.
Missing it, you mean?
Yeah, watching their kids grow up because
they're coaching other kids.
You're coaching other people's
Correct.
Kids 5, 6, 7 days a week. And you don't get to watch your own kids grow up. And that's crazy.
One of the best quotes I've ever heard, it's not mine, is everything you give your children, you also take it away from them, which is kind of the opposite of what you're talking about. So you're saying if you dedicate it to coaching,
correct,
you're missing out on them. So alternatively, if you're super successful with whatever else you're doing, or you're only focused on them, you also take something away from them. So meaning, like you mentioned earlier, you came up from a lot of struggle, a lot of this, and now you're successful, and your kids aren't going to experience that. Well, guess what? You took away that struggle experience from them. Now, can you overcome that through
Oh,
dialogue? You can.
I think
you can.
about it every day.
Exactly.
Because,
That's all I'm saying.
You know, strong men create weak men, unfortunately.
And weak
if
men,
we're not careful, right? And weak men
creates, it's the Rogan thing. Yeah.
Or weak men
Hard times
create strong men.
men.
Strong men create shit. Somebody's Googling this
Hold
right
on,
now.
no,
They're
no.
like, y'all are
All
terrible.
right. Hard times create strong men, right? Strong men create good times, right?
There
you
you
go.
Times create weak men.
Thank
Good
you.
times
You know, thank you, Robbie, for bailing us out of that little conundrum.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's
This is Sparta.
unfortunately the cycle. And that's the thing. We're responsible not only for ourselves. We are responsible. We're responsible for our legacy, but most importantly, how we live our lives is the best testament to our legacy, right? And how we treat people, that no matter who they are, where they're at, what they're doing, and with respect and kindness, then we're leaving the imprint that matters. And it doesn't matter if anybody sees it. And you know, let your giving be as far as the east is from the west. You know what I mean? And what happens is life will bless you abundantly, but it's not always in this overwhelming storms. It comes in these little short moments like this.
What does blessing mean?
Let's
I'm
say
not-
right now it's presence, right? It's a gift. That's why they call it the present. It is our blessing, right? It's what's happening right here.
A lot of people, because people they think blessing means like financial or instant reward. What you're talking about is this bigger picture thing. Exactly.
It's what we're doing right now.
Correct.
It's the
taking bits and pieces.
And it took us 2.5 hours to get to this level of synchronization.
No, we've been doing it for a couple hours because we can go back and see it. But I get your point.
That's the whole point. It's like we got to work for that. And that's, again, going back to Rogan. It's the long form conversations that actually unlock and unleash people's truth.
Correct.
You know?
Correct. You can't do it in a 15-second soundbite. You can't.
No. And
we haven't even dissected your story yet.
Yeah.
Completely.
And that's funny.
We haven't. Because I want to know, again, because it's a personal interest for me, is like taking college from solo entrepreneur to you already mentioned it like an hour and a half ago.
Sure.
3 businesses. And how many employees do you have right now? 30 employees. They never, correct me if I'm wrong right now, they never taught you that at USM in Jackson, how to manage 30 employees in 3 locations and how to go from 1 to 2 to 3.
No.
And that's not a fault on that institution. They're not designed to do that.
It's not for everybody. But what's funny is
correct.
I actually thought that people, I was so shocked when I got out and I realized that there was like very few people that was interested in doing what I was interested in doing.
It's scary, dude.
I assumed that people went into the PT school with the intentions of going into outpatient practice, and it was like a normal progression. And I even kind of talked to a few people while I was up there and just creating feelers. I wanted a partner. Like I really was looking for somebody to do this with.
Correct.
But what I found is no fault of anyone. Everyone has their own path. But it's just like I realized that I was different in a way where I wasn't really, the way I was calculating risk was different
than everybody else.
I still was scared.
Correct.
But I just didn't let it stop me.
It's easier to get in line.
No different than, like you said, like a MMA fight.
Right.
That's a calculation of
it
risk.
Was scary. Hell yeah. I put myself in a lot of situations. I'll sit there and say like, damn, like this is like, even with this project with my build, I'll say, okay, I'm going to build my house out of lumber that I mill off of the land that I bought. And like, that's the goal and the initial thing. Right. But think about all the steps that get you there. Right. And that's a personal mission for me. It's just now kind of, this is my first, like, I guess it's been public, I guess, but this is the first time like I'm really like talking about it in its context. But that's really the idea. And that's the thing what life becomes. It's like, that's important for me to do now at this point because it's important for my family. And just like I was stuck in that small facility that all of a sudden now I'm harming my business because now it appears as if people know this.
Settled.
They see your intentions, right? And I don't create another place and grow and take some risk and put my people in a position to where they can see this thing moving. And then it's not only, it's good for everyone, right? And then people want to see, and now we're building a new building in D'Iberville, which is coming next, we should be starting the next few months.
Sweet.
All right. I want to jump back on the comments that y'all can't see. Do you know Danny Skura?
Who?
Danny Skura. He's your St. Martin graduate. You're from D'Iberville. You probably don't know him, right? No. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Sakura?
Am I saying it wrong, Joey?
Yes, it's him.
Skura. Yeah, anyway, this is what Danny
Actually,
said.
he tore. Ashley Tour?
Yeah, Danny.
Did I say it wrong?
Skura. Yeah. Anyway, so
you said Skura.
Is that how you say it?
Anyway, go ahead.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, Danny said earlier, I'm gonna flash it on the screen so everybody else can read it too, to not know that I'm not making it. Yeah, you're looking at it. It's gonna take a second. But he says, thanks for the shout out, but I guess I should have articulated my comment a little bit better because we mentioned him earlier. He said, I've been following NeoLife for a while, and I've been procrastinating and reaching out to schedule a consultation. I've got severe back pain issue and shoulder issues, but want to avoid surgery, so I need to get in to explore those options. He said, this is a great conversation. I will push me to follow throughout reaching out to them. Love the companion. Hold on, I can't see it. I don't have my glasses on.
He's looking for compassion.
Yeah, love the compassion that they have in their craft. Thank you very much. I had to reach in close to that.
God, Lee's so blind.
I don't give a shit. Anyway, so that's a testament to your business. And Danny, thank you for chiming in, man.
Danny, specifically speaking to you, the big thing is that we want to do, and not to say anything to do with us, but what you want to do is really look at the problem as something you can solve with education, and just really learn about the issue. Don't trust any one individual's opinion about the issue, but really think about it in terms of any other problem. If you had a problem with your car, think of your spine as the same thing, right? There's parts and there's pieces.
Correct.
There's mechanics, and there's overuse stress in one direction just due to an action that's being had throughout the day. So that's really the goal, is really try to get some context to learn about the problem in the most functional way possible, that you can make small, subtle changes that can reverse the condition, and don't try to think about it in a one-size-fits-all approach. Dedicate at least 4 to 6 weeks of therapy before making any operative decision whatsoever, and that's advice I would give anyone.
Yep.
What can it hurt, right? Nothing, right?
Yeah.
It's a 100%. It's a cost risk analysis, right? If you're looking at, even if you had to pay out of pocket, right? 12 visits of PT at my clinic is like $700. It's like $65 a visit, cash pay for doctors of physical therapy, managed care. And you're looking at the sort, what are we doing to help people? We're just giving them practical information to correct their problem, and then doing what we can clinically while they're there to move that progression along. Some of it is dry needling or manual therapy, but most importantly, it's a conditioning of some sort, right? But it's specific and intentional to the problem. And if you're thinking about the spine, what supports it? The pelvis, the hips, right? So it's looking at the person from a foundational level. How we're walking impacts how we feel. How we climb stairs, how we get out of chairs, all those things impact how we feel.
Okay, so first I'm going to go back to the real stuff. I'm giggling here. Okay, so you're right, and I'm from the surgical perspective, so I see it before or however you want to look at it. I see it from the other angle, and everything you said is right. That's absolutely correct. Before we hit with a scalpel and a needle, there are certain things that we can do.
And you're going to surgery stronger. So that's great. That gives the surgeon better tissue if surgery happens to be the last resort. Right?
Correct. But if you catch it early enough or at a certain point in this, whatever the disease process is, you have the opportunity to fix it through what you're saying. And I'm not even talking about people who have like massive degenerative issues. I'm talking about people like me or Joey. Like, we're sitting right now in these chairs, like we're all slouched out. Like, you can help us fix that. Man. You can help the core strength. Ergonomics
simple.
MMA.
It's just all it is understand gravity and how it's affecting our body and how it wants to stack upon itself.
Even training MMA or BJJ, strengthening the core. Whatever you can do to help combat being in a cubicle and sitting in a chair, which is what most of us do.
You want to know the number one source to success in an exercise regimen? The number one key.
Listen, give it away.
Yeah,
is to have fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's honestly, you have to find a way to make it interesting and engaging. And the more you connect it to community and relationships and camaraderie, the more likely it is to succeed.
I agree with that.
What are you giggling over there?
Danny, I tried to read all of his stuff, and he said, "Jesus, you butchered that." Laughing my ass off. Much love. He said, "I'm coming to see you at NeoLife," and he said, "Love you guys and loving the podcast." Danny, I'm doing my best, bro.
Thank you.
I am doing my best,
Yeah.
and I appreciate the comment. I really do. That is funny, and he's gonna come check you out. And then your wife is in the comments, and she put the hearts out there. I don't know.
Damn.
She'd probably say, "Get your butt home."
Yeah, no shit. Why are you taking so long?
What did Chelsea say?
She just put hearts, hearts across.
So
Yeah,
I said I love her.
Yeah, she heard that.
I love
Yeah,
you.
like, yeah,
Yeah,
she heard that
there it
because
is.
live.
I'm
So listen, we are.
No, just type it to her right now.
So you've already
I love you.
we've already hit the longest podcast.
You're the reigning
live
champ.
show. You're the champ. You're the
Yes.
champ by a lot because you beat who's the longest before that?
The Pelican.
No, no, I think it's Kyle. Kyle was like an
Kyle
hour and 40.
Johnson?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
was an
can
hour
talk.
40. You like
You
doubled
destroyed
him
the competition.
Yeah, and we haven't even touched on all the stuff. So
all right, how about this?
we're gonna do a part 2.
We'll make another groundbreaking prediction. When I build my new building right there on the top.
We don't
of
even
the
know what your
Iberville,
new building
right,
is because
right?
we don't know where your old building's at. We haven't got there yet.
My new building's right there where we are on Casimir Avenue, right there on the corner of Gallery and Potts
All right.
Ferry.
I'm not
But-
complaining. I'm
but
just
look,
impressed.
So when we get there,
Yes.
right, I just happen to create a space that's a soundproof studio that's about the size of this room.
We could definitely do that.
You know,
It's
we
like
can
a built-in
relocate.
sponsorship kind of a thing. And
Exactly.
yes, I love that idea.
Yeah.
I love that idea. I knew tonight was going to be good. I knew it was going to be great. We took, like I said, last time I think I saw you was at Peter Anderson. That's been a few months ago, but I knew if you listen to tonight and you're thinking like, oh man, they went all over the place. They went back and forth. Good.
That's
like,
raw.
That's
Yeah.
it's if you can't look all the way down the 10,000, like, and you're in the jet airplane looking down on things, you're never going to get the good perspective. Now, if you only have that, you're going to be a head case.
Right.
You're going to be the guy who walks around and talks shit and never does anything. So it's having that overall perspective, but then also being able to be boots on the ground who can execute.
And realize
And I think you're doing both of those, obviously, who cares what I think? You got 3 businesses, D'Iberville, Gulfport, and where else?
Bay St. Louis.
Okay.
Right.
So
and to get back to that, so with Justin Holt, he's actually the clinic director of Bay St. Louis, and he started off as a support staff that was just a recommendation from a friend.
Yeah.
And a friend that had just so happened that I had an opportunity to pour in his life in a special way, and it all recycles, right? And now he's a 5-time state championship coach, and and now I'm doing what I'm doing, and now Josh Ladner's a freaking head coach at D'Iberville High School for the love of God. Like, thank you, Lord Jesus.
But I'm also hearing you say too a couple things that most people don't do. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're getting referrals on people that you're actually pursuing, whether you hire everyone that you get a referral on or not. Most people go, I don't know them.
No, I follow up with everyone and I talk to everyone.
But most people are not that open-minded.
Sure.
They go, you know about someone's
labels.
Correct.
Pedigree. Labels
Pedigree.
are shit. What you do is what matters.
Or risk.
I got PTAs that are better than PTs, like all day, every day.
Correct.
Miles Ladner is a PTA of mine that's been with me for 9. He's been practicing for 9 years. He's been with me for 2. And
you mean physical therapist versus
he's a physical therapist assistant? And
correct.
I promise you, this guy is
legit.
Correct.
Like, why? Because he shows up every single day,
drive,
and he's receiving. He's getting
he's got the
so
fire.
much.
Are you pushing him to PT school?
He's a musician. He's just got his life is unique in its own way, and I'm supporting him on his mission, and I schedule his schedule to where he has time to work on his music, and that's our relationship, right? It's reciprocity, right? And you're flexible, and you.
Let's stop for 1 second. How do you do that as a business owner?
I give him time. He asked me for time, and he gets it. And we schedule it into a structure that we're both getting what we feel like is responsible for the relationship to be effective, right?
Doesn't that take a lot of extra effort on your part, or or your manager, or your office manager, or what?
It's saying that
explain that to me.
What it took is me building a relationship and a dialogue with him to the point where he trusted that if he came to me with a problem, that I was going to help him solve it. And trust me, even then, even though like building those bridges, it was still really difficult for him to do so. And so when he did, that's the time where you're being tested. It's when actually you're doing something that's less advantageous to your plans, but it's more advantageous to their plans. And now you just made the team stronger because the hours I'm getting from him are more quality.
Correct. But was that 50-50 for you, or was that 49-51 for him?
It doesn't matter.
I get, okay.
It's
Great answer.
Because he's already given.
How did you position yourself to be in that position to be able to do that? That's what I'm asking you.
I think of it like a team member, and what they bring and the value they bring is based off of how they care and treat people and how people respond to them. So I listen to what patients say. I see what they say. I hear what employees say about other employees.
Okay.
I take the
You're
good,
involved in
the
your
bad, the
business.
ugly. I measure everything by metrics. There's very simple 4-part metrics that we track every week, and they get to see what they're doing and what success means, what failure means. And if they're not hitting their marks, like nobody's going to persecute them. Like I won't even speak up on it unless it happens like 2 or 3 weeks in a row, you know. But it's usually because it speaks to an underlying issue. I've never seen somebody like get real far off track, because it's not unfair. It's very fair. But if it's off track, I could just say like, hey, you know, man, what's going on? Like, how can I help solve this with you? Correct. And then you normally find there's something really controllable.
Correct. Correct.
And then boom, problem solved. Yeah. You just had to, you didn't even
just dig.
You just had to ask.
It's just like addressing negative emotions. It's noticing it that matters. It's not changing it. It's saying like, okay, I'm angry. Okay. I noticed I was angry. Okay. Why am I angry?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, now there's a pause to give you a period to reflect, right?
Right.
Yep. So I think we got to stop trying to change things, and we just need to put our attention on them and notice them. And that's, I guess, the core of this whole podcast is I'd like to just make that the theme of saying like, let's just put our attention where it matters and stop giving our energy to things that don't, and use each other as sounding boards to reflect and funnel good and to throw the bullshit out.
There it is.
Dude, tonight was great.
Part 1.
Yeah, it is definitely part 1 because there's so much other stuff I have to ask you. We didn't even get into the city council. We didn't do a great job of figuring out how you've transitioned to 3 locations. But we did. We hit a lot of great stuff. I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
I'm saying that I'm asking you live on the internet. We got to do part 2.
Yes.
If you can do part 2. We haven't even talked about you training Alan, which is what I see the most.
And what's crazy is that's the story I cannot wait
to tell. Yeah.
It's the movie that I'm in right now, and we're only in like the first scene.
What if we bring him in on part 2?
Oh, I'd love to.
Would Alan come in? Would you?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Oh yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, but we have some stuff to wrap up with you as far as the rest of your story. But we have to bring that in and how you've transitioned again from everything we've talked about to triple location business owner to now focusing on Alan Belcher and his comeback. That's a great story to tie into. People that don't know that are listening, Alan Belcher is a UFC fighter from the Gulf Coast. If you don't know him, look him up. It's some great fight stories to see. And then you're training him now on movement.
He's an absolute savage, and he's trusted me to start from the bottom, man. We rebuilt him. Like,
I want to hear him tell us about
rebuild him.
No, I want to hear him tell us about the self-awareness that it takes to go, no, Robbie, I'm a UFC fighter, BJJ black belt. I don't need to hear your shit.
And that's again what he's taught me is like a lot of these things and connections and growth that I feel like I've been able to experience in terms of just, I guess, accelerated has been based off of me getting to learn from him and just that's a part of the receiving while giving, right? The servant mentality is like you actually get so much more.
Correct.
And, you know, I've always tried to build a bridge with him because I knew there would be a special connection in terms of what we could bring out of him as an athlete.
Correct.
Especially too, because it gave me an outlet to express myself as an athlete. Because that same identity crisis I was going through when I left football, and then I just poured all that energy and that need for identity into my business and into NeoLife and to making all this stuff work. And then all of a sudden it gets to a point where now I realize like making myself whole is the most important priority for it to reach the next threshold, right? And for us to continue to grow. And so it's given me a sense of self-awareness and self-pride, and I guess putting time and energy into like pushing myself, and I guess it's given me a real reason that got me over the hump and got me off the couch. And dude, I got pictures from 2 years ago that were just like, I looked horrible, man. And I felt horrible. And I was, I wasn't thinking much about myself without even realizing it. You know what I mean?
Robby, I appreciate your time tonight, dude. Like I said, I knew tonight was going to be good.
Yep.
And we are 3 hours. 3 hours.
Reigning champ.
You are the reigning champ of the Brownwater.
Sorry, Chelsea.
No. Oh, yeah.
He'll be over to bed.
You can apologize to her for sure.
Bedtime.
Yeah, exactly. You are the reigning champ for time wise on it, and it wasn't bullshit and it wasn't filler. It was great, and we still didn't touch on everything. I don't feel like we did, and that's a good thing because of the way the conversation went. I hope everybody that was listening live or on the replay and on the podcast, I hope you picked up on the tidbits there. The it might sound heady or abstract, but it's the fundamentals, man.
Grit.
It's real life. Yeah, that's what you have to obtain to be able to move forward. And we're gonna get more into in his story on part two. As long as Robby's good with that. Are you good with part 2?
Dude, I'm here for you guys. Like, this is fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a really good time. We'll do part 2. We'll get more. We'll have to probably all of us re-listen to this and figure out where we were at. You know what I mean? And that way we can pick up and move forward, because I
was telling you about the organization thing. That's why it's important. Like Becky, my administrator, and I gotta really plug her, because like that's one thing, a part of like the key to success is investing in people,
correct,
pouring into them. There's not a guaranteed return. Like, you got to love people through transitions and hardships, and and also there's breaking points. There's times where we got to where now like it's like it's almost like a marriage sometimes, where like you get to the edge where it's like we're either going to walk away or we're going to fully commit to this thing. Well, and luckily it happened. And like, man, she is a rock star, and I'm so blessed to have her, because she's grown tremendously in that Conor McGregor mentality, where the same things that used to just create, like, I could see it on her, like just the confrontation.
She's ready.
Like, oh man,
now
but she does
lion.
it. Oh, she's doing, but grace, right? Through grace. It's just through consistency, right? If you're constantly doing it, it doesn't. You don't have to conquer the world, because we got tomorrow.
Like I said, we didn't even get into anything physical therapy related, right? Posture, core.
But that's the
nothing,
point, right?
Nothing
because
yet.
That's the point. Because
you have to start somewhere, though, right?
And also it means that what we need is deep. And
correct.
Yes, we need these. We need to understand posture. We need to understand, but most importantly, we need to understand that we have the capacity and power to heal ourselves. And people did it for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, right? And we forget. We've been programmed by the pharmaceutical industry over the last 100 years, and it's a lie. And people need to wake up, and they need to start thinking for themselves. They need to enlighten themselves and open their minds to different thoughts and ideas, and stop trying to label things, and stop labeling themselves based off the diagnosis and the words that a doctor gives you. Like, those are words that you
are challenges.
You're
challenges,
but you're also accepting them.
Correct.
When my doctor tells me I have this chronic degenerative diagnosis, no, he doesn't know better. He's just a guy that's throwing sometimes a word at a problem that he doesn't even not sure how to solve. And that doesn't mean he's a bad guy. It just means that humans are messy and they're complicated, right?
Or he's giving you a measurement of where you are right now. And if you're strong enough, which most people aren't, and they're not taught to do that, you're here now. Okay, well, now let's fight to go from here to here to fix that problem. Exactly.
You diagnosed my problem, but now how do we fix it?
Correct.
Well, the problem is the way you fix it, there's not a medicine in the world that can fix it. It's complicated. It starts with your body, your conditioning, your blood flow, your lymphatic system. The things that have to operate.
You know what's fun? You have a problem, and I'm just for instance, and this is real. You have you got cut. You have a bacterial infection now, and we're going to give you antibiotics, and the antibiotics fix it. Right? That's cool. Right? You know what's not fun is like your lifestyle, your choices, your health, your overall being as a human.
How do we build our immune system instead of like how do we build our immune system? Like, it's possible.
Right.
It's happening. There's
zinc.
It's,
It is.
A lot
but-
of zinc.
Yeah,
no,
vitamin D.
there's mechanisms.
I'm
and
just saying, if you
practices, right?
if your prescription to somebody is like healthy eating, working out, and like putting yourself in some physical distress in a positive way, that's not as cool as just going.
Yeah,
It's
Give
not,
me a pill.
Yeah, give me a pill. That's not fun. So
well, yeah, we got a problem. Let's fix it. But
Let's
that's
fix
not to get caught up on that, but just to say that's the whole. I guess the point in this is that the answer to our problems is education, and it's
100%.
and it's honestly it's through trusting one another in a system that the trust has been broken, and there's been issues with the way people have had to go from a culture where your doctor had your like he went to your house sometimes, you know, like it was a culture where your doctor was giving you remedies for home remedies, and they were telling you things about alternative mechanisms for treatment other than medicines, right? And that was, to me, that's a meaningful time we need to get back to.
He usually delivered you in the same
Yeah,
house.
you had the same family, the same family doctor your whole life.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm gonna read a couple more comments for you in it tonight. You knew Angie Holland. Angie says, "I know Alan raves about you. You've done a lot for him." And then your wife, she said, "Robby, they're trying to leave. You got to stop talking."
This is what, yeah,
which is funny. It is funny, but no,
she
seriously,
always does that.
honest to God, I'd go for another 3 hours if we could. But
See, that's what I tell her. I'm like, it's going. It's
going.
natural.
It's just,
I'm not trapping. She thinks I'm like putting a cage.
No, it's not.
We
It's
can't leave.
It's not the case. If this was not, if the cameras weren't on, we weren't recording, this is what I call a regular, like, I know it's not Friday, but it's a regular conversation, like Friday night.
And we're
It's
so,
no
that's
different.
what's funny. It's like it's genuine because we are the opposites attract. Like we are so opposite in so many ways, but the things that bond us are like, you know, the things we have in common, our children, and also our passion for people. Like it's very, very similar. And what's so beautiful about her and that people don't know, and maybe she doesn't even articulate, but it's that her concern for other people is far greater than anything for herself, and to me that's like a winning mentality.
Absolutely.
And we haven't even mentioned her. Maybe you did when I was getting ice earlier tonight, but her business is like,
and that's what it is. It's literally
I
just
go there a few times every couple months, man. I love
it's a chance for her to engage with people. And honestly, the things that are meaningful to her is like just being able to like share people's struggles. She's doing therapy for people right there, you know, just as meaningful. And because and it matters to her. She remembers everything, you know, and she prioritizes every person. And
taking all of Jared's old lady's money.
Mine too. For a great product though.
It is.
I go there on purpose. It's not an accident.
Yeah, and honestly, when she started doing it, I'm always like kind of in my head, just kind of doing math. Yeah, I'm like, well, she's already spending like $200 a week, I think, at these places. If my math is correct,
if I could just get her to make her own stuff.
Yeah, like if we could turn this around.
Yeah, I love it. I was the same way with mine. Yeah.
We tried to, but it didn't work.
Yeah, for sure. Robby,
Part 2.
Yeah,
Part 2.
We
is
appreciate
gonna
this.
be dope.
It is. Tonight was dope. I really. I know you don't know this, but I've talked to Joey. We've talked about this before. Like, I want to do a couple like in-depth. Not like, I love promoting small businesses, but I don't want it to be like just a pitch show. We got deep, we got heady tonight. We talked about some abstract stuff. It was great. If you'll come back and talk to us again and finish up, we didn't finish your story. We didn't get there, and that's good.
The shop's staying open, by the way.
Shop is open.
We didn't talk about the Gulfport store. We didn't talk about anything.
My passion is this lumber business right now, man.
We didn't even talk about you building your own house and creating your own lumber. People are like, "What are you talking about with the lumber?" He's mentioned it a few times.
I have to buy another bottle of whiskey.
You're building your own house and you're milling your own lumber. Right. So we'll get to that. And we didn't even talk about enough of your wife's business. So whether you come back and it's your wife, or we talk about Alan and how you're training him, because that's high level stuff. You mentioned it at the beginning. He's doing bare knuckle stuff.
It's so underground still, even though he's had a couple bare knuckle fights.
It's a comeback story for him,
man. Like I'm telling you, the light bulbs and the things that we experience when we train, it's so crazy, because it's like you're watching Lomachenko and you're watching these guys that are like these high level people, and then I'm looking at their training and I'm like, you know what? Like, we're covering all the bases. Like, there's really no stones being unturned here in terms of the game itself and how it's evolving. And then also looking at, like, how do we reduce damage and wear and fatigue, and how do we stay ahead of these problems that are going to exist,
analyzing it like a business. Yes.
And then looking at it from a neurologic standpoint.
Correct.
Right.
Throwing the medical side on
how do we train the vision in terms of in the vision in relation to the positions of the body and all these really cool deep scientific things, but it kind of just looks, it may look a little rough on the edges, but there's actually a lot more going on.
Or it may look segmented until you put it all together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it is. And luckily, and I got to shout out Batchy, my brother-in-law, Sebastian Seymour. He does all of our content related to Movement Doc, and that's the Instagram page.
Okay.
And it's up to almost 30,000 followers. It's doing really well. Just like, and he puts, like, we do our thing, we train, and really he's just there. It's almost just like, we talked about it early on. We're just like, lifestyle is the only way. You can't sit there and try to, like, where did Instagram, like, anybody that does anything on it fail? It's the fact that it becomes their mission. It becomes their quest. And honestly, like, that's not what any of us are interested in. It's like, we just want to do it, and like to try to like focus on getting all that energy into doing what we can control and stopping worrying about all those external forces. And Batchy documents the whole kind of thing, and then he'll break it up into a little 1-minute video, and then he'll send it to me, and I'll post it, and I'll put
big
a little
things will happen.
All right, and just letting people kind of see what's up. You know?
So we got Forever Young Men's Health. Yeah.
That's
So
my guy.
yeah, he's coming on the show. I had an in-depth conversation with him the other day at CPR Fest.
Awesome,
Dude,
he's about to do the next NeoLife, man.
You think?
Yeah,
that's what he told me.
That's what he told me,
and I don't doubt him. I don't doubt him.
He's in a marketing industry that's so needed.
Bring him on too.
I already talked to him. I told you about
there
it.
I told you
about Young Men's Health, for everybody out there who wants to go check him out. He said, my man Robby knows how important it is to incorporate all the different approaches to live a healthier life. He said, is it Robby with an IE or Robby with a Y?
He's playing. Yeah. That's my boy.
Yeah. So, and he's coming on the show too, sooner than later. We got to get him on.
You have to.
It's going to be another one of these type of conversations too.
He
does all the male hormone replacements.
Well, he's also one of those too, where don't let the surface fool you.
Oh, I jammed with him the other night. It was awesome, dude.
Deeper to people. And,
yes.
And that's the thing. A lot of times,
you think your patients know how deep you go when they?
No. Well, no.
If they have enough time.
No, not really. But what they do is they get to experience through my. Honestly, I feel like sometimes I grow more from my people now than they do from me.
I love that.
You know, I do a staff meeting every Monday. I buy lunch for everyone, and it's just a format for people to talk and share. And what it is like sometimes if you give people an opportunity to it's, the floor is yours. Like this is your chance, and it's hard for everyone. But if you don't do it every single week, every single time, it might take some people 12 times before they feel enough courage to speak up. And when they do it, they might really do it in a way where they built up too much. Usually it's fine. It's practice.
Usually the person that takes them 12 times to do it, they got the most stuff built up in them, right?
And they explode.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead and flash that picture of his crew.
Oh, his stat. I never did. Yeah, good job, Joey. Hold up. Let me show. This is this is right here.
This is the dream team.
All black.
It's gonna take you a second. You'll see it over there. So this is you. I'm assuming that's in D'Iberville. At the D'Iberville, it'll take right there. There you go. Where's that at, Robby?
This is at the D'Iberville Town Green, and so I have a team that's just unbelievable. If you look, the only person that is not in there is one of my PTAs. Audrey was in a really bad ATV accident, and she's doing really well now. She's made a full recovery, and she'll be back in a few weeks. But this is my team, and just amazing people, young, passion-filled people that are in from the front desk, all the way from Maddie over there and Sebastian in the front. There's just nothing but people that are they buy into a mission of really helping people. And even like I said, like the reason people love us is it's because it's the whole experience. Like my friend does, Maddie and Laurel and Tina and Jill at Gulfport, like they work as a team and coordinate patient care for hundreds of people. Like I'm talking over 600 patient visits between 3 locations a week. And that's, it takes some movement and
Yeah.
some responsibility, right? And and a lot of confrontations, right?
Oh yeah.
But you got to find a way to be the thermostat, not the thermometer. We all can detect problems, but how do we solve them? And we solve them together, and we communicate, and we create systems to fix the problems that are occurring, and assuming they're going to occur tomorrow, right?
You're
And
always going to have
always, but you have to be and if you have to realize that we have to be a part of the solution. As soon as I indicate a problem, I have to train my brain to start immediately starting to think of a solution. And that's kind of the way I try to approach people. Look, it's not I'm not ever going to pawn fixing a problem off on you, but I want you to get your brain organized in a way where you're starting to think of strategies, and that's the only way.
Buy-in.
But it's my job to
facilitate that.
To facilitate that. I can easily just answer this question, but
correct.
To me, where
if you don't have buy-in, you're not going to want to do it.
Where I want to grow is when I look at studying the best teachers. They really just answer questions, right?
Correct.
Because they're being very specific. And also, they're not throwing pearls at swine, right? And you can waste so much of your time and energy throwing your gifts at people that don't value them.
Correct.
And that means it's not meaningful for you or for them. And the hard part is just having the ability to move forward and not get stuck, trying to get validation out of things that don't do it.
Dude, you nailed it. You nailed it. We're like I said, you've already conquered the title of the longest show. And honestly, I would have cut you off like hours ago if it would have sucked. And it has
I'm sorry, dude.
No, don't apologize.
Yeah.
This was great tonight. I really appreciate it. This is a fun one for us, Joey. You concur?
I'm good.
Yeah, it was great.
Absolutely.
And honest to God, this is a part one of a part two. We need a part two for this because there's so much that I know. The listener may be new to you. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I know the end of the story, or at least what I think I know. And we need a part two for this. So it was fun.
Do you remember when we first met?
Yes. Where? At my house?
Yeah.
Yeah. With Robby.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did. I didn't know if you knew that or not. Yeah. You were doing
the dental
studying. For nursing school.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. That was before I went to anesthesia school and the whole nine. Yeah. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah.
All right.
Y'all gonna hug after this?
We might high five and hug too. Who knows? Yeah. Yes, I do remember that. That was
because that was right whenever I was in the thick of my
transitional phase though. You didn't know where you were going.
Because I was talking with Robby about potentially with the dentist.
Correct. I did. I remembered that 100%. Yes. Yeah. But dude, come back on, do a part two for us, please. We'll talk.
Bring Alan.
I want well, that could be a separate thing or not. I want to know more for if we started part two right now. I want to know more about how you go from one location to three. Sure. That's a whole episode in and of itself. And you've done that. Yeah. We didn't touch on that enough because we were doing the other stuff, and I love that. It was a great episode tonight.
Yeah,
it was. I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. And everybody that stuck with us, dude. I'm looking at the numbers. There was people that have hung with us the whole entire time, and the comments are coming in. So
good.
Yeah, it was good, man.
I'm all about the brown water.
Yeah, yes, we appreciate it, brother. Thanks everybody for watching on the live stream, for checking us out on the replay. And I tell you what, the people on the audio that's listening to us on the podcast part of it, the audio only. Y'all are crushing numbers that are super impressive.
Unbelievable.
Y'all are the guys that listen to the whole thing, guys and gals, and we appreciate that. If you keep watching,
it's only getting better.
It's only going to get better. Yeah. So stay tuned for part two with Robby Ellis, and thank y'all for tuning in.
Later.